Chapter 1530. Tomb Guardian Dao Soldier, blasphemers shall be killed without mercy. The towering statue looked down at the puppet below. The flames in its eyes burned brighter and brighter. Then, it slammed its huge palm down. Wherever the palm passed, the air would be compressed, and a terrifying pressure, like a vast mountain, pressed down on the puppet. Plop. The puppet was powerless to resist, and it directly knelt on the ground. Zhuo Wen's divine sense, which was contained within the puppet, trembled under this pressure. This was the statue of the tomb of a true immortal. It possessed the aura of a true immortal. Even though it was only a sliver, it was enough to make Zhuowen tremble. The power of the statue was too terrifying. The puppet was suppressed to the point where it could not move at all. It could only watch as the majestic palm descended. Then the puppet collapsed. Spurt! Outside the crack, Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with astonishment. What is that? Is it the transformation of a true immortal? Zhuowen asked Xiaohei. It was too terrifying. Even the wind created by the statue's palm was enough to immobilize the puppet. It could only sit there and wait for its death. It was destroyed by the palm directly. Xiaohei shook her head. It's not the transformation of a true immortal. It's the tomb guardian of the true immortal's tomb. It possesses a portion of the tomb master's power. It's very terrifying. It's not something we can fight against. At this moment, on a mountain in the depths of the serene corpse forbidden grounds, the statue looked down at the puppet that had been reduced to dust. Its indifferent voice sounded. What a cunning guy. He only sent a puppet to investigate. However, I've already memorized your aura. You can't run away. After saying that, the statue stomped its foot on the top of the mountain. With a loud rumble, the entire mountain collapsed into countless pieces of rubble. The majestic statue shot out like a cannonball, heading in the direction of the serene corpse forbidden grounds. It's the tomb guardian of the true immortal of the East. Hurry up and hide. Don't provoke such a fiend. It has been a long time since the 4 true immortals' tomb guards have taken action. Why has true immortal Dongfang's tomb guards walked out of the divine mausoleum today? I'm not sure. From the looks of it, it seems like it's chasing after someone. However, it's best that we don't meddle in other people's business. In front of such an existence, we're merely ants. Wherever the statue passed, the countless coffins in the nether corpse forbidden grounds became restless. Countless divine senses were transmitted and communicated in this space like signals. However, these coffins were all hidden deeply, deeply afraid that they would be discovered and destroyed by the Dao soldiers guarding the tomb. You can't escape. A roar that sounded like muffled thunder resounded throughout the entire serene corpse extremity. It was like rolling profound thunder that flowed endlessly and echoed endlessly. Not good. Kid, hurry up and seal this crack. Otherwise, this door definitely won't be able to withstand the attacks of the tomb guards and shatter. Xiaohei's face changed dramatically as he roared at Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyes were gloomy, but his hands did not slow down. He hurriedly took out the scroll he had obtained from old Yen and opened it. There was an inexplicable rune drawn on the scroll. However, this rune was emitting an extremely powerful sealing force. Seal. Zhuowen pressed the scroll into the crack. Immediately, the crack began to close gradually. This crack has been completely sealed. The tomb guards shouldn't be able to break through. Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief after doing all this. Rumble. As soon as Zhuowen finished speaking, an extremely violent rumble came from the huge bronze door in front of them. It was as if someone was violently pounding on the other side of the door. The tomb guards are here, Xiaohei said with an ugly expression. Rumble. Suddenly, the frequency of the pounding on the bronze door increased by hundreds and thousands. Then, a deafening and terrifying rumble rang out, and cracks began to appear on the surface of the bronze door. Crack. Then, the bronze door collapsed. The huge body of the tomb guards appeared in front of Zhuowen. What kind of joke is this? The seal has been broken? Zhuowen retreated rapidly amidst the countless fragments and strong winds. He squinted his eyes and stared at the huge tomb guards that appeared at the bronze door in shock. His heart was trembling. Blasphemer, kill without mercy. The Tao soldier guarding the tomb raised his head and roared. A huge palm slammed down toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen immediately bounced off with his legs. At the same time, the spirit-devouring lava river surrounded his body to resist the terrifying aura of the tomb guards. He immediately fled towards the cave. As he fled, Yun took out his communication jade charm and informed Lowe's outside to leave as soon as possible. Outside the cave, Lowe's, who was originally standing at the entrance of the cave, naturally received Zhuowen's message. He roared and waved his right hand. Jia Nan, Gatha, and Elder Yen were pulled into Lowe's palm without any resistance. Lowe's stomped on the ground and shot away from the cave like an arrow. Rumble! The moment Lowe's left the cave began to collapse. Or rather, the side of the mountain where the cave was located began to collapse. Countless rocks fell to the ground. What's wrong? What's going on? Jia Nan, Gatha, and Elder Yen were confused. They were even more at a loss when they saw the collapsing cave. I don't know either. Zhuowen sent me a message earlier and told me to leave quickly. So, I took you and left first, Lowe's said with a serious expression. Will Brother Zhuo be all right? Gatha asked worriedly. Rumble. As soon as Gatha finished speaking, a river of lava gushed out from the cave below and filled the sky. Within the lava river, a rather miserable figure suddenly shot out. This figure was none other than Zhuowen, who was constantly fleeing. Xiaohei, what should we do? Isn't this tomb guardian too terrifying? Even the soul-devouring lava river can't stop it. Zhuowen stepped on the river of lava. At the same time, the power of the void spread under his feet. It was as if he had entered the void as he fled at an extremely fast speed. Die! A huge hand reached out from the endless river of lava and grabbed at Zhuowen from all directions. The hand seemed to be able to cover the sky and the sun. The sun and the moon dimmed. It was as if the hand could grab the sky. Even Liao Si and the others, who were floating in the distance, felt their hearts tremble and fear when they saw the giant hand. Damn it! Zhuowen's face turned pale. The huge hand was too terrifying. When the hand reached out, the surrounding void was sealed. There was nowhere for his void rules to hide. Let's go all out. Zhuowen made up his mind. The golden runes on his chest flew out and surrounded his body, causing his divine body to reach its strongest state. At the same time, the 7 rules merged into Zhuowen's right fist. Zhuowen took a deep breath. He lifted his head to look at the incoming palm that was even larger than his body, and violently punched out. Rumble! There was a terrifying explosion. Then, Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. His punch hit the huge hand but was unable to shake it. Instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. He landed heavily on the ground. Blasphemer, kill without mercy. A majestic voice resounded in the area. The huge hand was like a 5-fingered mountain, descending from the sky. It wanted to completely suppress Zhuowen under the huge hand. Oh no, what the hell is this? It is so powerful. Even a god-defying sacred weapon can't stop it. Lowe's face changed. He wanted to help but found that he was too far away and there was not enough time. Rumble. In the end, the huge hand did not land. This was because there was a huge and majestic palace floating quietly above Zhuowen, blocking the killing blow of the huge hand. Phew! I almost forgot that this kid has such a treasure. Looking at the hall that blocked the giant hand, Liao Si let out a sigh of relief, and a relaxed expression appeared on his face. The Azure Dragon Hall was an immortal sacred artifact. Even if Zhuowen hadn't completely unleashed the Azure Dragon Hall's supreme power, just the defensive power of the hall alone wasn't something an ordinary sacred artifact could compare to. Cough, cough, cough. Zhuowen coughed out a mouthful of blood. He supported himself with his right hand and looked at the Black Dragon Hall in the sky. This was because he did not summon the Black Dragon Hall before this. Instead, the Black Dragon Hall came out on its own. Who is that? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and looked at the tall and straight figure with his hands behind his back at the top of the Black Dragon Hall. The figure had long hair and was dressed in a black robe. His back alone gave off a magnificent and imposing feeling. It was as if he could hold up the entire sky. Is that the first mountain god? How is this possible? Liao Si couldn't help but cry out in surprise, his eyes staring fixedly at the figure, his face full of disbelief. Although Lowe's had never met the first mountain god, he had seen the back of the first mountain god from afar. The back of the first mountain god was very similar to the back of the first mountain god. The first mountain god? He is the most mysterious first mountain god in the upper realm? However, what method did he use to leave the upper realm of the Black Dragon Hall and come out? Thinking of this, Zhuowen's eyes darkened. This first mountain god was too mysterious. Not only was the first mountain god terrifyingly powerful, but it was also because the first mountain god could leave the Black Dragon Hall without permission. Moreover, from the looks of it, he seemed to be able to control the Black Dragon Hall. This was too unbelievable. The first mountain god slowly turned his head and stared at Chun. Then his attention fell to the front. At this moment, the spirit-swallowing lava river had returned to Zhuowen's side and turned into his belt. In the shattered cave, a huge human-shaped statue walked out step by step. Its eyes, which were filled with ghost fire, narrowed as it stared at the first mountain god on the Black Dragon Hall. Dragon Hall? The cave of the Black Dragon Taoist? The tomb guard slowly stopped about 100 meters away from the Black Dragon Hall. His empty eyes, which were filled with ghost fire, slowly narrowed, as if he was afraid of something. Dongfang, it's just a small matter. Why did you send your tomb guard to chase after me? Chapter 1531. The First Mountain God. Or you? Where's Cultivator Long? He wasn't buried in the serene corpse forbidden ground, was he? The Dao soldier guarding the tomb came to a stop. His eyes were filled with ghostly flames as he stared at the first mountain god standing above the Blue Dragon Palace. You mean Cultivator Long? He died a long time ago. As for where he died, it's better that you don't know. Now, if you back off, I won't trouble your Dao soldier guarding the tomb. After all, this Dao soldier is extremely precious to you, the first mountain god said calmly. What do you mean? Are you threatening me? The Dao soldier guarding the tomb's voice gradually turned cold. A sharp aura swept across the place like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. The surrounding mountains crumbled under the influence of the aura. You're right, I'm threatening you, the first mountain god said calmly. The first mountain god does have a personality. Xiao He could not help but raise his thumb and comment in his divine sense. The Dao soldier guarding the tomb let out a furious roar. The terrifying sound wave almost shattered everyone's eardrums. Kanan, Gatha, and Elder Yen subconsciously covered their ears. Meanwhile, Lowe's was a lot stronger. Even though he was slightly affected, he did not lose his composure. Impudent prick, you're courting death. The Dao soldier guarding the tomb could no longer endure the first mountain god's disdain. With a shrill howl, it charged toward the first mountain god with heavy footsteps. It clenched its right fist and punched out. It seemed as though it could even shatter the sky. The first mountain god did not dodge. He stomped his foot in the air as his body emitted a golden glow. At the same time, 9 abstruse golden runes circled the first mountain god like a demon. The first mountain god threw a punch too. It felt like his punch was able to shatter the sky. On the other hand, Zhuowen's eyes glittered, especially when he saw the 9 abstruse golden runes floating around the first mountain god. He knew the 9 golden runes were the 9 turn golden split runes. Bang! The two fists collided. An invisible pressure spread rapidly into the surroundings. Following it, the walls on both sides of the ravine began to crack. The cracks eventually widened into countless rocks. Thud, thud, thud. The Dao soldier guarding the tomb roared as he backed off. His eyes were filled with uncertainty. He did not expect the first mountain god to be so powerful that he was knocked back with a single punch. Whoosh, whoosh. After knocking back the tomb guarding Dao soldiers, the first mountain god kept kicking his legs in the air. His movements were like a zigzag line, constantly changing, making it impossible for anyone to figure out his movements. Boom! When the first mountain god reappeared, his fist slammed into the chest of the Dao soldier guarding the tomb. Whoosh! The Dao soldier guarding the tomb was sent flying backwards, nearly embedding himself hundreds of meters into the stone wall behind him. Who are you? Do you know who I am? How dare you humiliate my tomb guards like this? The tomb guard leapt to his feet, staring at Zhuan with dread in his eyes. Then he retreated dozens of steps, and a voice rang out from his mouth. This voice should belong to the tomb master of the true immortal's tomb. Do I know who you are? Otherwise, I wouldn't have called you Dongfang. However, I advise you not to do anything rash. The serene corpse extremis is a world of its own. If something intrudes into the heavenly armor continent, it will attract the attention of those ancient inheritances. By then, I'm afraid you won't be able to return, the first mountain god said calmly. Then who are you? The tomb guard asked, unwilling to give up. I'm just a nobody. Even if I tell you, you won't know me. I advise you to return as soon as possible. The first mountain god shook his head and smiled. The tomb guard's eyes flickered. In the end, he snorted coldly and retreated. The first mountain god who appeared in front of him was very powerful. Although his Dao soldier was not weak, it would be difficult for him to defeat the first mountain god. Lord First Mountain God. After the tomb guard left, Lowe's hurried to the side of the first mountain god and cupped his hands excitedly. Lowe's. The first mountain god nodded slightly. Then he looked at Zhuan and said, You have Lawrence's aura on you. Lawrence must have passed on his sacred bone to you, right? Even the 9-cycle golden crack pattern was passed on to you. Lawrence really thinks highly of you. Zhuan's expression was not very good. He leaped up and landed in front of the first mountain god. He said in a deep voice, How did you get out of the Azure Dragon Hall? Without my permission, it's almost impossible for the living beings of the Azure Dragon Hall to come out. At this moment, Zhuan finally saw the true face of the first mountain god. After seeing the true face of the first mountain god, Zhuan was stunned. It was a face that was almost full of scars. Those scars were like wriggling worms all over the first mountain god's face, making him look ferocious and evil. The first mountain god stared at Zhuan in a mocking manner and said, Perhaps other living beings need your permission to leave the Azure Dragon Hall. However, I'm an exception. My freedom is not something you can restrict. Zhuan's pupils shrank as he stared at the first mountain god. The latter's words had already made it clear that the first mountain god could freely enter and leave the Azure Dragon Hall. Although Zhuan knew that the first mountain god was extremely mysterious, he was at least a living being from the upper realm. Since he was a living being from the upper realm, it was impossible for him to break free from the shackles of the upper realm and enter the Azure Dragon Hall freely. However, the first mountain god was an exception. You don't have to look at me like that. I'm the first mountain god, and I command the other 17 mountain gods in the upper realm. If I didn't turn a blind eye, do you think you could have gotten Liao Xi's help? The first mountain god said calmly. Just as Zhuan was about to say something, the first mountain god continued, Let's not talk about this for now. The broken exit of the serene corpse extremity should be sealed first. Otherwise, if something escapes from inside, it won't be a good thing. With that, the first mountain god rushed into the ruins of the cave. After about half an incense stick's worth of time, he came out again. Is the seal done? Zhuan asked. Of course. The first mountain god said with a faint smile. Then you should tell me about yourself now, right? Zhuan stared at the first mountain god and said. The first mountain god cast a sidelong glance at Zhuan and said, I say, boy, if it wasn't for me, do you think you could survive the attack of the tomb guards? You are far from qualified to know about my affairs. With that, the first mountain god ignored the gloomy Zhuan and turned into a stream of light, re-entering the Azure Dragon Hall. Wait! Zhuan shouted. With a thought, he planned to pull out the first mountain god who had entered the upper realm. Unfortunately, Zhuan's thought was just a drop in the ocean in front of the first mountain god's powerful strength. Before Zhuan's thought could completely enter the upper realm, it was forcefully cut off by the first mountain god. This made Zhuan so angry that his teeth itched. When Zhuan's thought re-entered the upper realm, he had completely lost track of the first mountain god. Zhuan, the first mountain god usually appears and disappears like a ghost. It's very difficult to find him unless he appears on his own. Lowe's came to Zhuan's side and sighed softly. Sigh. The first mountain god. Who is he? Zhuan sighed softly. In his heart, he was even more curious about the first mountain god's identity. At this moment, the tomb guards who had been driven away by the first mountain god returned to the tomb in the serene corpse extremis. The tomb of the true immortal in the east suddenly trembled. It was unknown when, but a large coffin quietly floated above it. This coffin was surrounded by intertwined darkness and coldness. The surface of the coffin was covered with many complicated immortal patterns. The immortal runes on the surface of the coffins emitted a dazzling light. A terrifying immortal aura filled the entire serene corpse impasse, causing the countless coffins to tremble and tremble. The coffin slowly opened. The tomb guards immediately went up to the coffin and dropped to their knees in front of it while trembling in fear. It's not your fault. The guy who showed up out of nowhere is no ordinary person. His flesh is comparable to a powerful celestial sacred. A calm voice came from the coffin. Following it, a figure wearing a mask with patterns slowly rose to his feet. The figure's eyes were tightly shut, as if he had fallen asleep. However, I'm very curious. Who is that guy? I remember that Taoist Song Long managed to escape from the calamity 10,000 years ago. I wonder if he's a genius that Taoist Song Long has been nurturing? Saying this, the figure slowly rose to his feet. The immortal aura lingering in the surroundings grew stronger. The entire serene corpse extremis became restless. Dongfeng, there's no need to look into this matter. Song Long has his own plans. 10,000 years ago, he could have broken through to the martial god realm, but he encountered a great calamity at the crucial moment. It's understandable that he's unwilling to accept his fate. Suddenly, a calm voice came from the west of the godly mausoleum. A strange coffin also floated out from there. Oh, Shimin, do you know that fellow's identity? The masked figure turned his head slightly and looked at the coffin. I don't know, but Master knows. Didn't you understand what he meant? The coffin in the west said calmly, the four of us are here to protect Master. Even though we're dead, we'll still be useful in the future. There's no need to waste too much of our lifespan at this time. The loss outweighs the gain. Hearing this, the masked figure fell silent for a moment before lying back down in the coffin. Then we'll listen to Master. Sleeping for 10,000 years is just a little bit of lifespan. I hope it'll come in handy in the future. A faint sigh was heard. The coffin slowly closed. With the help of the tomb guards, it returned to the mausoleum. The immortal aura gradually disappeared. The restless coffins in the serene corpse extremis fell silent. Can Song Long really succeed? Chapter 1532. Incineration Tower. He really did seal the entrance to the serene corpse forbidden ground. In the depths of the shattered cave, Zhuowen, Liao Si, and the others stood quietly. Before them, the copper door that originally stood there had already been shattered by the tomb guards. However, at this moment, the shattered pieces of bronze miraculously reformed into a door covered in cracks. At the center of the door were 9 shining golden patterns. They were imprinted on the surface of the door in 9 different directions, preventing the door from shattering. 9 cycle golden split runes? Zhuan could not help but murmur softly when he saw the 9 shining golden patterns. He did not expect the first mountain god to use the 9 cycle golden split runes he had refined to seal the entrance to the serene corpse forbidden ground. Brother Zhuo, what kind of monster was that just now? It actually shattered the cracked door here. Isn't that too terrifying? Jianen asked with lingering fear. The Dao soldier guarding the tomb was indeed very powerful. Even Zhuowen was unable to do anything against it. If it weren't for the appearance of the first mountain god, Zhuowen would most likely be in danger. That was the tomb guardian of a true immortal's tomb. Even heavenly saints would die if they attacked, Zhuowen said with a wry smile. Everyone was shocked when they heard this, especially Elder Yen. He stared at Zhuowen and said, the ancestral teachings of our Jia clan mentioned that there is a powerful tomb in the serene corpse forbidden ground. A god is buried there. The divine mausoleum is surrounded by 4 tombs of true immortals, and each tomb has powerful tomb guards. Could it be that the tomb guard you encountered, young Master Zhuo, is one of the tomb guards of one of the 4 tombs of true immortals? Zhuo nodded. There was no need to hide this. He said, "You're right. That tomb guardian is from the tomb." Jia Nan and Gatha exchanged glances. They both said in disbelief, "There really is a god buried in the serene corpse forbidden ground. This is truly unbelievable." Young Master Zhua, compared to the tomb of the god of sin, I'm actually more curious about the mysterious person who suddenly appeared. Who is that person to you? Old Yen stared at Zhuan and thought of the terror of the first mountain god. There were only a handful of people in the world who could stop the tomb guards of a true immortal. You mean him? Speaking of which, I don't know much about that person. I don't know who that person is. Zhuan shook his head. He was not lying. Other than the title of the number one mountain god, he truly did not know anything about the number one mountain god. Even Lo's, the 18th mountain god, did not know anything about the number one mountain god. The first mountain god was too mysterious. He could enter and exit the Azure Dragon Hall freely, and he could even defeat the powerful tomb guards. In front of the first mountain god, Zhuan realized that he, the controller of the Azure Dragon Hall, seemed like a joke. As the master of the Azure Dragon Hall, not only could he not completely control the upper realm of the three worlds, he could not even detect the location of the number one mountain god in the upper realm. He did not even know that the number one mountain god could enter and leave the Azure Dragon Hall freely. Zhuan, the number one mountain god is not someone we can speculate about. Speaking of which, the other 17 mountains are closely related to the number one mountain god. Perhaps when you have the strength of the Azure Dragon Taoist, you might be qualified to speak with the number one mountain god as an equal. At that time, he will tell you what you want to know. Lo's landed beside Zhuan and stared at the dazed Zhuan, sighing softly. Perhaps. Zhuan shook his head and stopped thinking about the number one mountain god. He always felt that the number one mountain god was a little distant from him, as if they were not people of the same world. Cheng Huang, perhaps Senior Fushi, is not in the Nether Corp's forbidden ground. In his sea of consciousness, Zhuan said to Cheng Huang guiltily. Speaking of which, it was him, Zhuan, who had attracted the tomb guard of the true immortal's tomb. Master has been missing for 10,000 years. It's easier said than done to find him. Perhaps it's really like what that Xiaohei dog said. We might be able to find clues about Master after entering the Central Plains. Cheng Huang was rather open-minded. Thus, now that this matter is over, we should go to the southern wilderness. Zhuan nodded and turned to look at the other side of the ravine. After crossing this ravine, they would be completely out of the territory of the eastern lands and arrive at the territory of the southern wilderness. However, Zhuan did not set off immediately. Instead, he returned to the Jia family with Elder Yen, Jia Nan, and Gatha. This time, the curse had been removed, and the Jia family was overjoyed. They sang and danced. The only flaw was the death of Elder Song. After staying at the Jia family for a few days, Zhuan boarded the four-bronze chariot again and prepared to go to the southern wilderness. Miss Gatha, young Master Jianan, you must be careful when you go to the southern wilderness. According to this old man's knowledge, the Burning Heaven sect has been bustling with activity during this period of time. It seems that they are preparing for a joyous occasion. It's best not to cause trouble when you go there. Before leaving, Elder Yen held Jianan and Gatha's hands and was extremely reluctant to part with them. Regarding the matter of going to the Burning Heaven sect to snatch people, Jianan and Gatha did not mention it. If they did, how could Elder Yen let them go? Joyous occasion? Elder Yen, do you know what this joyous occasion of the Burning Heaven sect is about? Zhuowen's mind moved, and he couldn't help but ask. Elder Yen was startled, and then he said in a deep voice, "It's said that it's related to the Holy Maiden of the Burning Heaven sect. Some time ago, I heard from the clansmen who returned from the southern wilderness that the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace want to form a marriage alliance. The joyous occasion during this period of time should be this marriage alliance." Marriage alliance? Zhuowen's eyes slowly narrowed, and a strand of killing intent gushed out. This caused Elder Yen to involuntarily tremble, and he didn't dare to look directly at Zhuan. He didn't understand why Zhuowen revealed such an expression. Jianan and Gatha looked at each other and revealed bitter smiles. How could they not understand why Zhuowen revealed such an unusual expression? This time, Yun went to the southern wilderness directly to the Burning Heaven sect to snatch Muchenshue, and Muchenshue was the holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect. Anyone who heard that the woman they loved was forming a marriage alliance with someone else would have a murderous intent in their heart. John and Gatha, let's go. We have to go to the southern wilderness as soon as possible, Zhuowen said in a deep voice. Jia Nan and Gatha didn't dare to say anything. They chatted with their clansmen for a while, and then stepped into the 4 bronze chariot. Rumble. The 4 bronze chariot's wheels rumbled like thunder, and it instantly disappeared from the sight of the Jia clan. After the 4 bronze chariot crossed the ravine and entered the southern wilderness, Jia Nan and Gatha handed over the detailed map of the southern wilderness to Zhuowen, and then under Zhuowen's instructions, they entered the Azure Dragon Palace. The Burning Heaven sect is really domineering. They built their sect in the central area of the southern wilderness, and they are worshipped by countless forces and warriors in the southern wilderness. Sitting in the 4 bronze chariot, Zhuowen's gaze fell on a towering tower surrounded by flames in the distance. That towering tower was the symbol of the southern wilderness, and it was called the Burning Flame Tower. Zhuowen waved his sleeve, and Long Xiaotian appeared beside Zhuowen. Zhuowen. Long Xiaotian looked at Zhuowen with some confusion. Father, that's the Burning Flame Tower. Zhuowen pointed at the towering tower in the distance, and said in a deep voice. Long Xiaolan was silent, but his gaze fell on the towering tower, and his eyes were full of sharpness. The Burning Flame Tower, is Xiao in that tower? Long Xiaotian clenched his fists, and his eyes were full of tyranny. Father, I will break through that towering tower. Hun also stared at the towering tower, and muttered these bold words to himself. Long Xiaolan shook his head and said, Leave Xiao's matter to me. I will break through the Burning Flame Tower. Zhuowen looked deeply at Long Xiaolan, and finally said with a smile, Father, I want to see Mother. I will leave everything to you. Saying so, Zhuowen firmly grasped Long Xiaoyan's hand. When the time comes, Xiao, you, my daughter-in-law, and your father will be reunited. We will return to Ryuka to celebrate, Long Xiaotian said with a smile as he wrapped his left hand around Zhuowen's neck and rubbed Zhuowen's head with his right hand. That's only natural. When the time comes, I will let you and Mother hold a chubby grandson, Zhuowen said with a mischievous smile. Loz, who was sitting in the back seat, silently watched the father and son play with each other. A trace of a smile appeared on his face. This scene in his eyes was exceptionally heartwarming. In the central region of the southern barbarian lands, there was an extremely magnificent city. The city was surrounded by flames that soared to the sky, as if these terrifying flames could even burn the sky. As for the name of this city, it was called Burning Sky City. Burning Sky City had a colossal force, and its name was Burning Heaven Sect. When the Burning Heaven Sect was mentioned, countless sects and forces in the southern barbarian lands had a change in expression. This was because it was the most powerful and terrifying force in the southern barbarian lands. The southern barbarian lands were not like the eastern barbarian lands that had the 9 secluded realms. The 9 secluded realms restrained and feared each other. Countless forces in the southern barbarian lands reigned supreme over the Burning Heaven Sect. The reason was that the Burning Heaven Sect's foundation was too powerful. There were many powerhouses in the sect, and they stood out among the crowd, almost suppressing all the other forces in the southern barbarian lands. In Burning Sky City, there was an extremely luxurious pavilion. Golden fireballs floated around the pavilion, and the gauze that fluttered in the wind was golden in color. From the swaying gauze, a beautiful figure slowly walked out. This beautiful figure wore a phoenix crown on her head and wore a phoenix brocade robe. Her pair of beautiful eyes were burning with golden flames, as if she was a phoenix spreading its wings and flying. Her entire body was filled with a noble and gorgeous aura. Under the phoenix crown, her peerless appearance was like a plum blossom in the snow. Even the whole world was overshadowed by her beauty, causing hundreds of flowers to wither and not dare to compete with her. Tap, tap, tap. The crisp sound of footsteps came from the depths of the pavilion. A maid walked to the back of this beautiful figure and knelt on the ground. She said in a low voice, "Saintess, The sect master said that the young palace master of the Snow Palace will arrive in Burning Sky City soon. Before that, the sect master hopes that Saintess can prepare well. The beautiful figure leaned against the railing and quietly stared at the blue sky. She didn't answer the maid behind her. The Saintess didn't speak, and the maid didn't dare to move. She could only kneel on the ground and wait for the Saintess' response. The sect master doesn't have the right to restrict my actions. Also, I'm going to bathe and change my clothes tonight before heading to the burning flame tower. You can talk to Zhou Tianzong about this. If he agrees, then I can consider meeting the young palace master of the Snow Palace. Chapter 1533. Qiu Lao the maid knelt on the ground and said, "This servant understands. This servant will tell the sect master about this matter." "Then you can leave first," the holy maiden said indifferently. The female servant responded. Immediately, she slowly withdrew and quickly exited the building. After returning from the eastern lands, I keep feeling like I've forgotten something. What exactly have I forgotten? The holy maiden leaned on the railing and looked in the direction of the eastern lands. She frowned slightly. She didn't know why, but she felt like she had forgotten something important. Then what was that important thing? Every time she tried to remember, she would always have a splitting headache. She just couldn't remember. The holy maiden stroked her forehead and muttered to herself weakly, "Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Let's not think about it anymore. I'll go see Qiu Lao tonight. Ever since I returned, Qiu Lao has become crazy. I wonder who did it?" Thinking of Qiu Lao's crazy appearance, the holy maiden's beautiful eyes were filled with a cold light. Ever since she returned from the eastern lands, Qiu Lao had been locked up in the burning flame tower. The main reason was that Qiu Lao had gone crazy and caused chaos in the sect. Therefore, Zhou Tianzong ordered him to be locked up in the burning flame tower. Qiu Lao was the first elder to follow her. Since she was weak, he had always taken care of and protected her. Their relationship was like a teacher and a friend. When she heard that Qiu Lao had gone crazy, she was extremely angry. However, Zhou Tianzong had never allowed her to enter the burning flame tower to see Qiu Lao. This made her extremely puzzled. At night, the sky was covered with an inseparable curtain. Darkness invaded the entire land. However, the burning sky city was as bright as day, and all kinds of flames rose from every building in the burning sky city, creating a dazzling brilliance. Burning Sky City, as its name suggested, was a city that was set on fire. Whether it was the entire city or the surface of the buildings in the city, they were all covered in flames. Even if it was night, under the flames of various colors, it was as bright as day. The flames burned fiercely, making the city look like a city of fire. In the depths of the pavilion filled with golden flames, a beautiful figure walked out of a crystal-clear pool. Two maids hurried over and draped a phoenix brocade robe over the beautiful figure. After putting on the brocade robe, the two maids respectfully combed the silhouette's hair. After combing her hair, the maid brought over a rather luxurious phoenix crown and placed it on her head. Thud, thud, thud. The crisp sound of footsteps rang out once more. The maid who had come earlier in the day walked over once more and knelt before the beautiful figure. "Saintess." Lord Sect Master said that if you are willing to meet the young palace master of the Snow Palace, he will allow you to enter the burning flame tower, the maid said respectfully. "I understand. Tell the sect master that I will prepare to meet the young palace master of the Snow Palace." The saintess put on the phoenix brocade robe, removed the gauze, and left the pavilion. The burning flame tower was located in the center of the burning sky city. The surface of the burning flame tower was covered in blood-red flames. It looked as if it was formed from blood and would not stop burning throughout the year. When the saintess arrived at the bottom of the burning flame tower, two heavily armored guards standing guard outside blocked her path. "Saintess, the burning flame tower is a forbidden area. Without the sect master's permission, no one can enter." One of the guards lowered his head and said, "The sect master has allowed me to enter the burning flame tower. If you have any questions, you can ask the sect master." The saintess' autumn eyes were as cold as ice. Her body emitted an imposing aura without being angry. The two guards looked at each other and revealed a troubled expression. The saintess had come to the burning flame tower a few times before. However, without the sect master's permission, she had been blocked outside by them. In their opinion, the saintess' visit this time should be the same as the last time. She had come without the sect master's permission. Although the saintess had said that the sect master had allowed her to enter, the two guards still did not dare to let her in. Let her in. Suddenly, an indifferent voice rang out in the minds of the two guards. The two guards trembled. Soon after, they respectfully said to the saintess, "Saintess, please enter." The saintess raised her head slightly. Her autumn eyes fell on the top of the burning flame tower. There, a stalwart figure stood quietly like an eternal statue, overlooking the saintess below. The saintess turned her head. Her expression was normal. She stepped forward and entered the burning flame tower. On the top of the burning flame tower, Zhou Tianzong narrowed his eyes and muttered in a low voice, "It seems that most of Qin Shui's memories of the eastern lands have been completely sealed. Zhou Ming, you have done well this time. Thank you for your appreciation, sect master." Behind Zhou Tianzong, a figure knelt on one knee. His eyes were burning with a strange black flame. "Sect master, while you were in seclusion, something big seemed to have happened in the eastern lands," Zhou Ming suddenly said in a secretive tone. "Something big? Could it be that something happened to Raiwa and Yen Ruhua? However, if something really happened, I think Raiwa would have sent a message to inform me in time," Zhou Tianzong said in surprise. Elder Raiwa probably didn't have the chance to send the message because the heavenly worm of the eastern land's 9 netherworld realm appeared. It said that the 9 netherworld conference this time was hosted by someone from the Chaos Temple, a sun-sky saint realm saint named Chao Rong. Zhou Ming said slowly. However, Zhou Tianzong narrowed his eyes slowly. "It's a heavenly worm. Why would such a thing appear in the 9 netherworld realm? Isn't it suppressed by the Chaos Temple in the Middle Lands? Also, what happened to Raiwa and Yen Ruhua?" Zhou Tianzong asked in a deep voice. Zhou Ming was silent for a moment before he said, "The heavenly worm isn't its original body. It's a clone." It said that the Hall Master of the Blue Dragon Hall, Sapphire Shore, raised it. As for Raiwa and Yen Ruhua, I'm afraid they've already died. Zhou Tianzong slowly clenched his right fist and said coldly, "Sapphire Shore is really daring to raise such a dangerous thing like the heavenly worm. I'm afraid the heavenly worm's existence has seriously threatened the entire 9 netherworld realm. Also, Chao Rong from the Chaos Temple should have come for the heavenly worm, right? Chao Rong did come for the heavenly worm, but he died in the end. Sapphire Shore wasn't spared either. Also, I heard that Tun, whom Sect Master has been looking for, appeared at the 9 netherworld conference. Raiwa and Yen Ruhua didn't die at the hands of the heavenly worm. They died at the hands of Zhon," Zhou Ming said in a deep voice. "Tun, that little bastard really did appear. He even killed Raiwa and Yen Ruhua. He deserves to die." Zhou Tianzong's eyes were filled with cold, killing intent as he continued, "What happened after that?" "I don't know what happened after that. It said that the heavenly worm was finally sealed by a mysterious person and brought back to the central region. That mysterious person seems to know Zhuon. However, this is after all what I heard from the eastern region. As for whether it's true or not, I'm not too sure," Zhou Ming said with some uncertainty. Zhou Tianzong waved his hand and said, "Whether the news is true or not, Yuan has finally appeared. Mu Chenxue and Feng Xiao are both in my Burning Heaven sect. That little bastard will definitely come to the Southern Burning Heaven sect. It's best if he really comes. I won't let that little bastard return." Zhou Ming's eyes flickered as he said cautiously, "Sect Master, it said that Yuan has an immortal sacred tool on him. With the power of an immortal sacred tool, I'm afraid that Yuan won't be so easy to capture, right? Don't worry. The immortal sacred tool on that little bastard is only an auxiliary tool. Its destructive power isn't that strong. Moreover, how can an immortal sacred tool be so easy to master? Even a heavenly saint would have to spend a lot of effort to master an immortal sacred tool, let alone that little bastard." Zhou Tianzong's eyes were full of contempt as he continued, "Moreover, Mu Chenxue has the precious phoenix bloodline in her body, while the young palace master of the Snow Palace has the black tortoise bloodline in her body. If the two are combined, perhaps our two great forces will be accepted back into the central region. It's precisely because of the special bloodlines in Mu Chenxue and Yenruhua. That family in the central region has sent several old guys. I'm afraid that Zhuoan won't come. If he comes, he won't be able to return. At this point, Zhou Tianzong chuckled coldly. Behind him, Zhou Ming's heart trembled. He had heard about the origins of the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. However, he had always thought that it was just nonsense. Now that Zhou Tianzong said it, the rumors might really be true. If the origins of the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace really came from the families in the central region, then if the two great forces really obtained the support of that family, they would probably be able to sweep away any forces outside the central region. Zhou Ming, let's go. Since the eastern region's Blue Dragon Hall no longer exists, then send an invitation to the western region's Fierce Tiger sect on my behalf. Invite the sect master of the Fierce Tiger sect to come and witness the marriage between our Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. After Zhou Tianzong finished speaking, he stepped out of the Burning Flame Pagoda. Zhou Ming knelt on one knee and respectfully said, "This subordinate obeys." The Burning Flame Pagoda had a total of 100 floors. In the center of the pagoda, there was a spiral staircase. The surface of the staircase was burning with purple flames, looking mysterious and distant. The interior of the Burning Flame Pagoda was incomparably gloomy. Under the illumination of the purple flames, the interior of the Burning Flame Pagoda appeared particularly strange. "Save me. Let me out. I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you imprisoning me? Let me out." Around the central staircase, there were iron fences. The surface of these iron fences was also burning with purple flames. On the other side of the iron fences, there were countless flickering silhouettes. These countless silhouettes were the prisoners that had been imprisoned by the Burning Heaven sect for countless years. In the eyes of the Burning Heaven sect, those who disobeyed the Burning Heaven sect were all prisoners, regardless of whether they were inside or outside the sect. The prisoners who had been imprisoned here had been imprisoned for thousands of years. Some cultivators with insufficient cultivation were even imprisoned until they died of old age. Chapter 1534. God binding chains. The Burning Flame Tower was filled with many negative emotions. Countless howls that sounded like the howls of wolves in the middle of the night were exceptionally horrifying. The Holy Maiden's eyes were as calm as an ancient well. She stepped forward and walked up the spiral staircase. The phoenix brocade robe that the saintess was wearing was engulfed by the purple flames. The phoenix pattern on the robe emitted a blazing light, as if it had spread its wings and soared into the sky. A huge phantom of a phoenix floated behind the saintess. The terrifying purple flames on the stairs all retreated, not daring to approach the saintess. Thud, thud, thud. The crisp sound of footsteps reverberated throughout the empty interior of the Burning Flame Tower like a ghost in an empty valley. The instant the footsteps sounded, the countless howls in the Burning Flame Tower seemed to have been drowned out. All of the prisoners turned silent as they quietly listened to the rhythmic footsteps. The saintess' expression remained the same. Step by step, she walked up the stairs. Her autumn eyes were as still as ice, as if she would never be affected by anything. When the saintess reached the 70th floor, she stopped. The space on this floor wasn't very big, and it was surrounded by extremely dense flames. These flames were black with a tinge of red, as if they were the flames of hell. At the top of this floor, there was a huge iron cage. The iron cage was made of meteorite rocks from outer space. This kind of rock was extremely tough, and it was indestructible. Even for a saint, it would be extremely difficult for him to destroy an iron cage made of meteorite stones from outer space. Many figures were locked up in these iron cages. The auras of these figures were not weak at all. Rumble! The saintess stomped her foot and all the flames on the 17th floor surged. The phoenix phantom behind her soared up and engulfed all the flames on the 17th floor. In an instant, the flames on the 17th floor disappeared and gathered on the phoenix's shadow, causing the phoenix to become more and more substantial. The saintess lightly stepped onto the phoenix's back. The phoenix raised its head to the sky and let out a cry. It spread its wings and flew to the top of the 17th level. This scene shocked the figures in the cages, especially when they saw that the Holy Maiden had actually dispersed the hellfire on the 70th level. All of them revealed astonishment in their eyes. The hellfire on the 70th level was extremely powerful and terrifying. It suppressed them and made them suffer the torment of being burned by the hellfire at every moment. Such a powerful flame had actually dissipated under the feet of this peerless beauty who was capable of causing the downfall of a nation. Phoenix. This woman possesses the bloodline of the phoenix and has the ability to control all flames in the world. I heard that only the saintess of the Burning Heaven sect, Muchenshue, possesses such a bloodline. Inside the cages, many people opened their eyes and looked at the saintess. Some of them even exclaimed when they recognized the saintess. The saintess did not pay any attention to the shocked figures in the cages. She squatted on the back of the phoenix and carefully scanned the cages around her. It was as if she was looking for something. Lord Saintess, did you come here to release us? I've been trapped here for hundreds and thousands of years. It's time to let me go. I didn't do anything wrong. I just had a conflict with the disciples of the Burning Heaven sect. I know my mistake. Lord Saintess, I didn't do anything wrong. It's just that the disciple of the Burning Heaven sect had taken a fancy to my sister and wanted to snatch her away. In my anger, I killed him by mistake. This is something I didn't expect. I didn't do anything wrong either. It's clearly the law enforcement team of the Burning Heaven sect who forcefully demolished our home and broke up my family. I just resisted a little and was imprisoned here. Voices came from the cages. They were all eager to get out, but they didn't think that they were wrong. It was the Burning Heaven sect who was in the wrong first. Muchenshue was as cold as ice. She seemed to not hear the voices around her. Her eyes were still scanning the cages around her. Finally, her gaze fell on a cage hanging in the corner. Elder Chio? When she saw the lonely figure in the cage, Muchenshue's calm expression finally melted like a glacier. The phoenix flew over and landed in front of the cage where Elder Chio was. At this moment, Elder Chio's body was dirty. His hair was disheveled and his face was stained with blood. His body was bound with black chains that seemed to be restricting his movements. Elder Chio, how are you? Looking at Elder Chio's appearance, Muchenshue revealed a shocked and angry expression for the first time. She clenched her fists tightly. Play with me? Will you play with me? I want someone to play with me. Elder Chio revealed a silly smile. His body wriggled like a worm as he crawled toward Muchenshue. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. However, the moment Chio Lao approached the edge of the cage, he suddenly cried out in shock. The chains on his body actually contracted and tightened, cutting his flesh into pieces. Cherry red blood continuously flowed out from Chio Lao's wounds. It was a ghastly sight. Elder Chio, are you all right? Muchenshue's beautiful eyes changed slightly. Looking at the miserable figure rolling on the ground, the coldness in her eyes became more intense. Open. Without hesitation, Muchenshue attacked. She waved her sword finger, and the phoenix under her feet let out a cry. Its huge phoenix claws brought with it the fire of hell as if it was going to destroy the world. Boom! A dull sound was heard. Immediately, cracks appeared on the surface of the cage made of meteorite before it finally collapsed. Seeing this scene, the prisoners in the other cages were inexplicably horrified. They knew very well how tough the cages made of meteorite were. However, now, in Muchenshue's hands, they were shattered like paper. This was too unbelievable. The phoenix flashed over and caught Elder Chio, who fell from the iron cage. At this moment, Elder Chio screamed again and again. The chains on his body tightened as if they were going to crush Elder Chio into pieces. Countless amounts of red blood spurted out, making Elder Chio look like a man made of blood. He looked exceptionally ferocious. God-binding chains? Who is so vicious to use such a thing on Elder Chio? Muchenshue's jade-like hands landed on the chains. She felt her soul tremble and quickly thought of the God-binding chains. The God-binding chains were a taboo torture tool used to imprison prisoners. The reason why it was called a taboo torture tool was because the chains had the terrifying ability to bind the soul. Once a prisoner was bound by the God-binding chains, their soul would be firmly imprisoned in the chains. As the chains pressed on the physical body, their soul would also be damaged. Using such a torture tool on a prisoner was definitely an inhumane punishment. Generally, the Burning Heaven sect would only use it on those who had committed the most heinous crimes. However, this torture tool was used on Elder Chiu. How could Mu Chenxue not be enraged? Her eyes were filled with dense killing intent. Elder Chiu, don't worry. I will help you break the God-binding chains. Mu Chenxue said softly. Her jade-like hands pinched together and her eyes burned with golden flames. The golden flames burned fiercely and finally shone on her sword fingers, turning into a small golden sword. Slash! With a wave of her sword fingers, the small golden sword emitted a radiance that even made the sun dim. It was as if everything in the world would be overshadowed by this sword. Clang! However, under this sword, the God-binding chains did not move. Apart from a few sparks, there was no other movement. What? The God-binding chains are actually so tough? Mu Chenxue's face changed. Seeing Elder Chiu cry out in pain, she also felt a trace of panic. I want to see the sect leader. He will definitely be able to break the God-binding chains on Elder Chiu. Seeing Elder Chiu in pain, Mu Chenxue felt a little uncomfortable. In the end, she decided to see Zhou Tianzong. Sweet. The phoenix let out a cry. Under Mu Chenxue's command, it flew up and left the burning flame pagoda. Saintess, who is behind you? Could it be that you took a prisoner from the burning flame pagoda? A sharp-eyed guard immediately saw Elder Chiu behind Mu Chenxue and immediately shouted to stop them. I will tell the sect leader about this matter. You better not block my way. Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences. Mu Chenxue's eyes were filled with frost. She placed her jade-like hands on the back of the phoenix. The phoenix flapped its wings and endless flames fell from the sky onto the ground. The guards who were blocking the road in front were immediately flustered and retreated continuously. The phoenix took advantage of this gap and flew up with the wind. Even if the guard wanted to chase, he couldn't catch up to the phoenix's speed. Sweet. The cry of the phoenix soared into the sky and attracted the attention of countless warriors in the burning sky city. It's a phoenix. The one sitting on top of the phoenix should be the saintess of the Burning Heaven sect. It's said that the saintess is the first person with the phoenix bloodline to appear in the Burning Heaven sect in thousands of years. She is the pride of our burning sky city. Countless warriors in the burning sky city looked up at the huge phoenix that flashed past. They all revealed yearning expressions. There were even many warriors who had infatuation in their eyes as they fantasized about the chance to get intimate with the saintess of the Burning Heaven sect. However, a fantasy was still a fantasy. The phoenix's speed was extremely fast. In a flash, it disappeared from everyone's line of sight. Not far away from the Burning Flame Tower, there was a great hall. This great hall was called the Burning Heaven Hall. The Burning Heaven Hall was the place where the sect leader of the Burning Heaven sect lived. This terrifying great hall that was like a wild beast was empty. Only the black flames burning at the top of the great hall indicated that this great hall was extraordinary. The Burning Heaven Hall was a taboo existence in the eyes of many warriors in the Burning Heaven City. All the warriors would choose to take a detour when they passed by the surroundings of the Burning Heaven Hall. This was because the person who lived here was the sect leader of the Burning Heaven sect. This was a powerful existence that countless warriors in the Burning Heaven sect respected and even feared. Sweet. The phoenix landed on the ground. Mu Chenxue slowly walked down from the phoenix and stood in front of the Burning Heaven Hall. So. Chapter 1535. 18 Black Flame Envoys. 18 Black Flame Envoys. Mu Chenxue's eyes were as cold as ice. The 18 figures in front of her were all wearing black robes with strange black flames burning on them. The 18 of them were all wearing black masks. Blazing black flames covered their true faces. The 18 Black Flame Envoys were very famous in the Burning Sky City. They were the left and right arms of the Burning Heaven sect's sect master, Zhou Tianzong. All 18 of them were peak profound sages, fragmented sages. When the 18 black flame envoys worked together, they had once killed Ain Sky's sacred realm expert. The 18 of them had a tacit understanding of each other, and their combined attacks were flawless. Ordinary heavenly saints would have a headache if they encountered the 18 black flame envoys. Lady Saintess, may I know why you have come to the Burning Sky Palace tonight? The 18 black flame envoys spoke at the same time. It was as if 18 voices were echoing in the square in front of the Burning Sky Palace. I'm looking for the sect master. Ask him to release the god-binding chains on Elder Chiu. Mu Qinshue's beautiful eyes were filled with frost, and her golden eyes were burning with golden flames. The phoenix flew over and landed beside her. It bent down and placed Elder Chiu, who was struggling in pain, on the ground. Lady Saintess, this Chiu Ren is a prisoner of the Burning Flame Tower. Isn't releasing him against the rules of the sect? If the sect master knows about this, how will you explain it? A figure walked out of the 18 black flame envoys. The black flames on this figure were extremely fierce, and there was even a huge beast made of black flames floating behind him. It seemed to be able to devour the heavens and the earth. The first black flame envoy. The moment this figure walked out, the other 17 black flame envoys lowered their heads and placed their right hands in front of their chests to show respect. I don't care about any explanation. I want to see the sect master right now. Mu Qinshui was not afraid. The golden flames in her eyes burned even more fiercely. The phoenix beside her let out a long cry and spread its wings, soaring into the sky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The phoenix's wings flapped like the wind. Dense golden flames covered the sky, as if it was going to burn the sky to ashes. The golden flames spread across the sky and dyed the night sky golden. At this moment, the burning sky city was no longer dark. It was completely lit up by the golden flames. What's going on? That is the golden phoenix flame, the might of the phoenix bloodline of the burning heaven sect's holy maiden. At this moment, countless warriors in the burning sky city raised their heads and stared at the golden flames that filled the sky, as well as the enormous phoenix that was reborn from the flames. Shock was revealed in their eyes. When everyone's gazes landed in the direction of the golden phoenix flame, they all revealed strange expressions because the golden phoenix flame was in the burning sky hall, and the burning sky hall was the palace of the sect master of the burning sky sect, Zhou Tianzong. Lady Saintess, what do you mean? You want to use force in the burning heaven great hall? Do you know the consequences of using force in the burning heaven hall? The first black flame envoy's face turned dark as he spoke. Mu Qinshui had the phoenix bloodline in her body, so they were very clear on how terrifying the phoenix bloodline was. If Mu Qinshui really went all out, although they could block her, they would have to pay quite a large price. I've said it before. I want to see the sect master. If you still want to stop me, I won't hesitate to fight. Mu Qinshui's face was as cold as ice. Although her golden eyes were covered in golden flames, they were incomparably cold. The first black flame envoy's face froze. He stood there, not knowing what to do. Qinshui, you're causing trouble. Why aren't you stopping? While the two sides were in a deadlock, an indifferent voice rang out. The black flames on the surface of the burning sky palace suddenly became wild. These black flames surged into the deep and serene burning heaven hall and landed on the ground, turning into a black blanket. At the end of the black blanket, a slender figure slowly walked over. With every step the figure took, the black flames would soar into the sky. The flames would bow under his feet, as if they were a subject seeing their king. When the figure finally arrived at the entrance of the main hall, his sharp eagle-like gaze landed on Mu Qinshui. His gaze contained a powerful aura that radiated without anger. Mu Qinshui's face was as cold as ice. She stubbornly said, Elder Chiu has been taking care of me since I was young. He is the closest person to me in the Burning Heaven sect. If you don't release the god-binding chains on him today, don't expect me to cooperate with you and that bathing thing. Zhou Tianzong's eyes slowly narrowed. The black flames soared into the sky and turned into a giant brush. When the brush appeared, the phoenix soaring in the sky let out a cry and revealed a fearful expression. The brush was Zhou Tianzong's ascended saint artifact, the Dark Flame Brush. However, the Dark Flame Brush was not a high-ranked ascended saint artifact. It should be around the level of a heavenly Yang saint artifact. However, even if it was a heavenly Yang saint artifact, in Zhou Tianzong's hands, it could burn the sky and boil the sea. Qin Shui, don't cause trouble. Elder Qiu is a sinner. It's natural for him to be tortured by the God-binding chains. Zhou Tianzong calmly said. There was an unquestionable tone in his voice. If you think that Elder Qiu is a sinner, then you can also think of me as a sinner. I'm willing to be imprisoned in the burning flame tower. I don't want to see that bathing thing at all. Mu Qinshui coldly said. Zhou Tianzong frowned. Naturally, he could not imprison Mu Qinshui in the burning flame tower. After all, the main character of the marriage between the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace was Mu Qinshui. After pondering for a moment, Zhou Tianzong said in a deep voice, if I release the God-binding chains on Elder Qiu, you must listen to me. This marriage is extremely important. You should know that. Mu Qinshui's beautiful eyes flickered. In the end, she sighed and said, if you let Elder Qiu go, I'll listen to you. Mu Qinshui felt helpless. She was very clear that in a huge sect like the Burning Heaven sect, if the sect master gave the order, even if she was the saintess and had a high position, she still could not go against the sect master's order. This marriage is very important. You have to listen to me. I'll release the God-binding chains on Elder Qiu. However, if you go against me, Elder Qiu will die without a doubt. Zhou Tianzong calmly said. Mu Qinshui's beautiful face changed slightly. In the end, she still compromised. She knew that she had no other choice but to do so. Seeing that Mu Qinshui had agreed, Zhou Tianzong took a step forward and landed beside Elder Qiu. His right hand made a grabbing motion and the dark blaze brush that was floating in the air landed in his palm. Then he used his left hand to tap on Elder Qiu's acupuncture points. Elder Qiu, who was originally struggling in pain, immediately calmed down and stopped struggling. Zhou Tianzong held the dark blaze brush in his hand and drew some mysterious characters in front of Elder Qiu. The characters were floating in the air. The strokes were like dragons and snakes. There was an indescribable charm to them. When Zhou Tianzong drew the last stroke, the characters seemed to be alive and nailed onto the God-binding chains that bound Elder Qiu. When the characters finally sank into the God-binding chains, the chains automatically shattered into countless pieces. The pain on Elder Qiu's face finally eased. Mu Qinshui quickly squatted down. With a wave of her hand, golden flames surged out and enveloped Elder Qiu. The strange thing was that Elder Qiu's terrible injuries were miraculously recovering under the cover of the golden flames. When Elder Qiu's injuries were all healed, he fell to the ground and fainted. Due to the God-binding chains, Elder Qiu had been suffering from both physical and spiritual pain. Now that he was suddenly released, it was natural for him to faint. The God-binding chains are just a torture tool to make the prisoner suffer. It's not fatal. Elder Qiu, go back and have a good rest. Then you will slowly recover. Zhou Tianzong held the dark blaze brush and quietly looked at Mu Qinshui and Elder Qiu. Behind him, the 18 black flame envoys bowed and their black flames soared into the sky. Mu Qinshui did not reply. She waved her hand and the phoenix in the sky let out a long cry. The golden flames that filled the sky immediately retracted and returned to Mu Qinshui's side. The phoenix followed Mu Qinshui's instructions and gently lifted the unconscious Elder Qiu onto its back. Remember what you promised before. For this marriage, you must listen to my orders. Zhou Tianzong said faintly. Mu Qinshui responded and leaped onto the phoenix's back. Shortly after, the phoenix let out a sharp cry and soared into the sky, leaving the burning sky hall. Sect Master, is it really okay for you to release Elder Qiu? After all, Elder Qiu is the clearest about the saintess. If Elder Qiu regains his consciousness, he might tell the saintess some things that he shouldn't. A figure landed beside Zhou Tianzong. A pair of eyes that were suffused with black flames stared at the phoenix in the sky. Zhou Ming, since I've released Elder Qiu, it means that Elder Qiu is unable to recover. Zhou Tianzong revealed a cold smile as he continued, "Back then, when Ruhuo forcefully searched Elder Qiu's soul, it caused Elder Qiu's consciousness to become rather unstable. Many of his memories became chaotic and he fell into a state of insanity. Therefore, I imprisoned him in the burning flame tower at that time. However, after bringing back Mu Chenxue and sealing most of her memories regarding the Eastern lands, I made another trip to the burning flame tower. As a result, Elder Qiu has completely become an idiot. It's basically impossible for him to recover." With that, Zhou Tianzong turned around and entered the burning sky hall. The black blanket formed by black flames also followed his footsteps and gradually disappeared from the burning sky hall. Zhou Ming's heart shivered. He clearly understood the meaning behind Zhou Tianzong's words. Back then, Elder Qiu had probably not become an idiot. He was only delirious. However, in order to prevent Mu Chenxue from being affected by Elder Qiu, Zhou Tianzong made another trip to the burning flame tower and turned Elder Qiu into a complete idiot. The phoenix streaked across the sky and stopped in a luxurious pavilion. Mu Chenxue brought Elder Qiu into the pavilion and instructed the maidservants in the pavilion to bring Elder Qiu to have a good rest. After Elder Qiu was brought away, Mu Chenxue leaned against the railing at the edge of the pavilion. She slowly narrowed her eyes and revealed a sliver of coldness. Elder Qiu's sea of consciousness has completely dried up. Mu Chenxue looked at the night sky and softly murmured. She tightened her grip on the railing. Chapter 1536. Spirit Protecting Elixir. In the hazy night sky, the four-bronze war chariot streaked across like lightning. At this moment, the four-bronze war chariot was not being driven by Zhuan, but by Long Xiaotian. Ever since leaving the Jia family, Zhuan had been sitting cross-legged in the back seat, as if he was silently comprehending something. Long Xiaotian and Lo's did not disturb Zhuan, but Lo's eyes flickered as he recalled the seal that the first mountain god had set up in the Serene Corpse Extremis. That seal was set up using the 9-turn golden split rune, and Zhuan himself had cultivated the 9-turn golden split rune. The seal set up by the 9-turn golden split rune might have inspired Zhuan quite a bit. Suddenly, a golden light gushed out from Zhuan's body and condensed into a complicated golden rune. This is the 2nd-turn golden rune of the 9-turn golden split rune? Looking at the golden rune, Lo's pupils shrank, and he could not help but exclaim. Although he had not successfully cultivated the 9-turn golden split rune, he was quite familiar with it. At this moment, Zhuan slowly opened his eyes, looked at Long Xiaotian, and said, "Father, how long will it take to reach the burning sky city in the central region of the southern wilderness?" "I'm afraid it will take more than half a month." Long Xiaoyan stared at the burning flame pagoda in the distance and said indifferently, "Half a month, huh?" Zhuan murmured and then said to Lo's, "Senior Lo's, I am preparing to cultivate the 2nd-turn golden rune. I hope you can protect me." "The 2nd-turn golden rune? So soon?" Lo's was a little surprised. Zhuan had just successfully cultivated the 1st-turn golden rune not long ago, and now he was trying to cultivate the 2nd-turn golden rune. Wasn't this a little too fast? The 9-turn golden split rune was originally a secret technique that targeted the soul. If one was not careful, one's soul might be destroyed. Generally, after cultivating the 1st-turn golden rune, a martial artist would rest for a long time before attempting the 2nd-turn golden rune. Of course, Zhuan should be able to comprehend a lot of things from the 1st-turn golden rune in split time, which was why he was trying the 2nd-turn golden rune in such a short time. After all, this was the opportunity, and Zhuan was the 1st-turn golden rune. Lo's studio. Lo's studio was is his studio is his time is studio is his studio is his studio is studio. At this moment, Zhuan's soul floated quietly in the air above the golden sea of consciousness. Xiao He stared at Zhuan with a grave expression and said, "Tuan, are you sure you can withstand the 2nd golden pattern?" "I'm sure." The first mountain god must have purposely used the 9 revolution golden runes to seal the crack in the nether corpse extremity. I've learned a lot from it. If I don't try it this time, I'm afraid it will take a long time for me to do it again," Zhuan said in a deep voice. If that's the case, then be careful. There are a total of 6 strokes in the second golden pattern. The pain of each stroke is probably greater than the pain of the first golden pattern. You have to be mentally prepared, Xiaohei said calmly. Zhuowen nodded seriously. Soon after, golden lights surrounded his body as he prepared for battle. Xiaohei did not waste any time. With a wave of her little claws, she began to slowly draw the second golden pattern on Zhuowen's back. The first golden pattern was drawn on his chest, while the second one was drawn on his back. Although Xiaohei's drawing speed was very slow, Yuan was still in so much pain that he almost fainted. When she reached the last stroke, Xiaohei said solemnly, "Brat, hang in there. It's the last stroke." After saying that, Xiaohei suddenly carved the last stroke on Zhuowen's back. In the end, Yuan could not hold it in any longer. He howled in pain as cold sweat dripped from his forehead like raindrops. His entire body trembled as he leaned weakly against the back seat. "Zhuan, are you all right?" Loz quickly stepped forward and asked with concern. Even Long Xiaotian, who was sitting in the front, looked at him with concern. Zhuowen waved his hand and took out a porcelain bottle from his spirit ring. He swallowed the elixir inside, and his complexion became slightly better. The second golden pattern has been successfully drawn. I can clearly feel that my holy body is constantly strengthening, but why haven't I broken through to the great success holy body? After calming down, Yuan discovered that the second golden pattern on his back was constantly pouring powerful energy into his body, causing his holy body to constantly strengthen. However, compared to breaking through to the great success holy body, it was still a little bit lacking. If you want to break through to the great success holy body, I'm afraid you will need the third golden pattern, Loz said softly. Is there still a little bit left? Zhuowen frowned. In the end, he gritted his teeth and his mind entered his sea of consciousness again. He said to Xiaohei, "Xiaohei, continue drawing the third golden pattern on my soul. I want to break through to the great success holy body in one fell swoop." "You are crazy. The second golden pattern has already seriously injured your soul. It will take a long time for you to recover. If you immediately draw the third golden pattern, your soul will directly collapse," Xiaohei exclaimed. Zhuan took a deep breath and said, "Don't worry. I have the Spirit Protection Celestial Elixir with me. I obtained it on the 4th floor of the elixir room." Even if you have the Spirit Protection Celestial Elixir, this is still an extremely risky move. Xiaohei naturally knew about the Spirit Protection Celestial Elixir that Zhuan had. The Spirit Protection Celestial Elixir was a peerless elixir. Its main effect was to form a thin film shield around a warrior's soul. It could protect a severely injured soul from collapsing and dissipating. Generally speaking, the Spirit Protection Celestial Elixir could indeed protect Zhuowen's soul that had been injured by the second golden pattern. However, the third golden pattern's power was much more terrifying than the second golden pattern. Zhuowen's soul had just been injured and he had not recovered yet. If he immediately used the third golden pattern, Xiaohei was worried that even the Spirit Protection Celestial Elixir might not be able to protect Zhuowen's soul. "Don't worry too much. With the Spirit Protection Celestial Elixir, I should be able to survive the third golden pattern." Having said that, Yuan suddenly became silent for a moment. Then he continued, "Moreover, we are about to reach the southern wilderness. Before that, I want to break through to the great success holy body." Xiaohei looked deeply at Yuan. Finally, he sighed and said, "You are still so stubborn. Since you want to go crazy, then I will go crazy with you." With that, Xiaohei stretched out his little paw. The third golden pattern was absorbed into his palm. Zhuan did not dare to be negligent. With a flick of his finger, he took out the Spirit Protection Celestial Elixir from his spirit ring. A surge of medicinal power turned into a powerful halo. This halo went deep into Zhuowen's soul and finally surrounded Zhuowen's soul. "Let's start," Zhuowen said in a deep voice. "Be careful." Xiaohei took a deep breath and began to draw the pattern of the third golden pattern on Zhuowen's right arm, stroke by stroke, imitating the trajectory of the third golden pattern. The third golden pattern had a total of 7 strokes. Each stroke was several times more painful than the second golden pattern. The pain was indescribable. Under such pain, even the strong-willed Zhuan could not help but scream. Loz and Long Xiaoan were so scared that they looked at him with worry. When Xiao He drew the 5th stroke, Zhuan's mind began to blur. His ears were full of noise. With the 6th stroke, cracks began to appear on the surface of the halo around Zhuan. With the 7th stroke, the soul protection formed by the spirit protection celestial elixir finally collapsed into countless pieces. Zhuan directly spat out a mouthful of blood. The most direct reaction was that countless cracks began to appear on the surface of Zhuan's body. Blood mist spewed out, making Zhuan a bloody man. Oh no, Zhuan's soul is about to collapse. The moment the halo collapsed, the surface of Zhuan's soul in the depths of his mind began to crack like a porcelain bottle. At that moment, Zhuan's soul was at the point where it could vanish at any moment. It was extremely dangerous. Old fox, what should we do now? Zhuan has already lost consciousness. His soul has begun to collapse. Xiao He began to panic. He could not help but ask Qing Huang for help. Quickly put this kid's soul into the Fushi cauldron. However, the Fushi cauldron can only slow down the rate at which his soul is collapsing. Whether or not he can survive this will depend on himself, Qing Huang said with a sigh. Xiao He was a little disappointed. He said, if I had known this would happen, I would not have listened to this kid's crooked idea. Otherwise, this would not have happened. Qing Huang sighed softly and said, now, we can only depend on this kid. If he can make it through, then he can directly break through and attain the great success holy body. If he can't make it through, then I'm afraid his soul will scatter. Xiao He nodded helplessly. Qing Huang was right. Now, everything depended on Zhuan. In the outside world, the 4 bronze chariot that had been galloping in the skies suddenly stopped in midair. Long Xiaotian rushed to the back seat and stared at Zhuan. What's going on? What's wrong with Zhuan? Long Xiaotian asked in shock and anger. At that moment, Zhuan's face was as pale as snow. His eyes had turned white, and the aura on his body was faintly discernible. It was as if he would disappear from the world at any moment. This kind of state usually only appeared on people who were about to die. Now that it had appeared on Zhuan, did it not mean that Zhuan was in a state of near death? Loz's expression was ugly. He said in a deep voice, I'm afraid that Zhuan has failed to draw the 3rd transformation golden pattern on his soul. Long Xiaoyan's pupils shrank. He asked, what are the consequences of failure? According to common sense, if he fails, his soul will be severely damaged at most. It may take a long time to recover. However, Zhuan immediately drew the 3rd transformation golden pattern after drawing the 2nd transformation golden pattern. This is too crazy. After drawing the 2nd transformation golden pattern, his soul was already injured. If he immediately tried to draw the 3rd transformation golden pattern, I'm afraid that his soul will collapse. At this point, Loz fell silent. Long Xiaotian was stunned. The latter is so serious? What should we do now? What should we do? Long Xiaotian almost lost control. Wen was his son and the main force of this expedition against the Burning Heaven sect. If Wen died on the way, he did not know what to do. Chapter 1537. Great completion. Saint Physique Loz and Long Xiaotian waited for 3 days and 3 nights. During these 3 days and 3 nights, Wen was in a half-dead state. Moreover, as his soul continued to collapse, Zhuowen's aura became increasingly weak. It was as if he would die at any moment. This made Loz and Long Shan, who were guarding Zhuan, so nervous that their hearts were in their throats. However, this state only lasted for 3 days. On the morning of the 4th day, when rays of sunlight shone down from the sky, Zhuowen's aura, which was originally weak, suddenly erupted with an extremely terrifying aura. It was like bamboo shoots after a rain, full of vitality. Zhuowen's aura is strengthening. Loz and Long Xiaoyan's eyes burst with light. They couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief and relax. Rumble. Thick dark clouds began to fill the sky. These dark clouds were like ancient beasts, covering the sky and the sun. In the depths of the dark clouds, countless golden thunderbolts filled the air. However, other than the golden thunderbolts, 2 other colors of thunderbolts appeared at the same time. They were the red thunderbolts and the blue thunderbolts. The three colors of thunderbolts intertwined with each other, creating a colorful scene. A terrifying power that shook the heavens and the earth came crashing down from the sky. It was as if it wanted to crush the entire world into fine powder. It's a three-colored thunderbolt. It seems like Jun is about to successfully break through to the great completion Saint Physique. Loz's face was full of joy, and his eyes were filled with joy. The three-colored thunderbolt was a thunderbolt tribulation unique to the great completion Saint Physique. When Loz advanced to the great completion Saint Physique, the thunderbolt tribulation he went through was the three-colored thunderbolt tribulation. Long Xiaotian let out a sigh of relief. He was most afraid that Jun wouldn't be able to make it and his soul would really scatter. Now that Jun was about to go through the tribulation, it meant that Jun had finally made it through. Jun suddenly stood up from the back seat of the four-bronze chariot. 3 golden runes floated around him. He looked up at the sky and stared at the tricolored lightning flashing in the tribulation clouds. He was not afraid at all. The energy of the 3 golden runes pushed my second-rate holy body to the great success holy body in one fell swoop. This is really unexpected. Jun cracked his knuckles. At this moment, Jun felt as if his entire body was filled with power, as if he couldn't use it all. Rumble! Zhuo Wen's right foot suddenly stomped in the air, and a terrifying shockwave spread out in all directions from his right foot as if it could topple mountains and overturn seas. Wherever the airwaves passed, countless floating clouds dispersed, countless dense forests collapsed, mountains and hills shattered, and rivers dried up. The power of this kick was so terrifying that even Zhuan himself was shocked. Is this the physical strength of a great success saintly being? Zhuan muttered in a low voice as he stomped out like a cannonball, and he shot towards the tribulation clouds in the sky. Rumble! 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 The blood-colored, blue, and golden tricolored tribulation lightning bombarded down from the clouds and landed on Zhuowen's body. It was as if the entire sky was about to fall. This is the power of a great success saintly being. I feel that I can fight against a Yin Tian saint with one punch. In the tribulation clouds, Zhuan shouted out loud amidst the terrifying tricolored lightning. His voice almost covered the sound of the thunder as it resounded through the clouds. Long Xiaodan and Loz were stunned by this scene, especially Loz, who looked as if he had seen a ghost. When he had just advanced to the great success saintly being, he hadn't dared to act so recklessly. He had dared to rush into the tribulation clouds alone and resist thousands of lightning bolts. This was really unbelievable. Generally speaking, the power of a great success saintly being wouldn't be too strong. Back then, Loz had suffered a lot under this tricolored tribulation lightning, and he had almost cried for his parents. However, Jun was the exact opposite. The endless tricolored lightning seemed to be tickling Jun. It should be because of the third turn golden pattern. Loz quickly noticed the 3 golden patterns floating around Zhuowen's body. He also understood why Zhuowen's physical body was much stronger than an ordinary great success saintly being even though he had just advanced to the great success saintly being. The 9-turn golden pattern was originally a secret technique that complemented the 10,000 Dao indestructible divine body. Back then, Loz hadn't practiced the 9-turn golden pattern, so he had been embarrassed by the tricolored tribulation lightning when he had just advanced to the great success saintly being. However, Jun was different. He had practiced the first 3 turns of the 9-turn golden pattern. Even though he had just advanced to the great success saintly being, his power was probably much stronger than an ordinary great success saintly being. It was understandable that the tricolored tribulation lightning couldn't do anything to Jun. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the tricolored tribulation lightning became even more violent and turbulent. Jun was bathed in this terrifying tribulation lightning. The more he fought, the more courageous he became. He bombarded the tribulation clouds with his fists, directly annihilating all of the tribulation clouds that were sweeping over. At this moment, Jun was like a god in the sky, stepping on the tricolored lightning and descending to the human world. Break! In the tribulation clouds, there was a heavenly roar. The thick tribulation clouds collapsed in an instant, revealing the blue sky above the tribulation clouds. In the blue sky, A black shadow fell like a meteorite and finally hit the ground heavily. The ground collapsed in an instant, forming a terrifying gully. Lowe's and Long Xiaotian quickly jumped into the four-bronze chariot and controlled it to retreat thousands of miles away. Only then did they look at the scene in front of them with some shock. In the depths of the earth, a huge gully appeared. At the bottom of the gully, a tall and straight figure slowly stood up. The three golden patterns were like a protective shield, constantly revolving around the figure. Long Xiaotian quickly controlled the four-bronze chariot and landed in the depths of the gully, stopping in front of Jun. "Jun, are you okay?" Long Xiaotian asked with concern. Jun raised his head, smiled, and said, "I'm fine." A saint body that has cultivated the 9-cycle golden crack pattern is indeed extraordinary. It is so easy to go through the tricolored lightning tribulation. Lowe's sighed with emotion. "Senior Lowe's, do the two of us want to give it a try?" Yuan shouted and looked at Lowe's, his eyes full of fighting spirit. Lowe's had cultivated the saint body to the great success level for some time. Generally, the longer the saint body was cultivated, the more powerful it would be. Lowe's had cultivated the saint body to the great success level for almost 100 years. During this time, he had been tempering his saint body, so Lowe's strength should be equivalent to the peak of the sun-sky's sacred realm. The strength of the two mountain gods of the 16th and 17th mountains, Mais and Lu Si, was above Lowe's. The two of them had cultivated the saint body to the great success level longer than Lowe's. The saint body was like a treasure sword. Only after a long period of polishing could it reveal its powerful edge. You can't wait to challenge me after cultivating the saint body. I like your character. You are straightforward enough. Come on. Don't blame me for not warning you when I beat you up, Lowe's said with a smirk. That's not necessarily true. Wun smiled faintly. He bounced his legs and stomped on the ground. The gully collapsed and shattered into ruins. Jun was like an arrow that had left the bow, rushing toward Lowe's. Lowe's was not afraid. He jumped up, and a terrifying airwave exploded in the sky. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the two of them fiercely collided. Their fists collided, and countless airwaves swirled in the air. The space collapsed as if the entire sky was about to collapse. Long Xiaonan hurriedly drove the four-bronze chariot away from the battlefield of Zhuan and Lowe's. He was shocked as he watched the battle between the two of them. There was no doubt that Zhuan and Lowe's did not use any power of law at all. They were fighting head-on with their physical strength. Moreover, the power generated by the battle between the two of them made even Long Xiaotian tremble. Although he was in the Yin Sky Saint realm, if he interfered in the battle between the two of them, he would be suppressed even if he summoned the Dragon Soul. Unless he took out the 10,000 sacrifice sword, which was a heaven-defying sacred weapon. Long Xiaotian smiled bitterly and said, "Although I have also cultivated the myriad Tao indestructible divine body, compared to the two of them, it is like heaven and earth." When Zhuan had first obtained the myriad Tao indestructible divine body, he had opened it to the Ryuka disciples to cultivate. The main reason for this was that there was no threshold to cultivate the myriad Tao indestructible divine body. It required diligence, hard work, and tenacity. Boom, boom, boom. The battle between the two of them in the sky became fiercer and fiercer. The aftershocks that spread out caused a huge crack in the sky. It was as if the sky was being torn apart at this moment. Boom. The two of them punched each other again. Immediately, the two of them retreated a few thousand meters at the same time and faced each other from a distance. Lowe's stared at Zhuan in surprise and said, "Is the 9-turn golden crack rune really so magical? You have just broken through to the great success sacred body, but you are already on par with me?" At this moment, Lowe's was really shocked. One had to know that Zhuan was only fighting with his physical strength. The sacred body was only one of Zhuan's means. If Zhuan used the 7 types of laws and the saint qi in his body to combine with the sacred body, his strength would probably reach an unprecedented level. At that time, even if Lowe's took out the 18th mountain, he might not be able to defeat Zhuan. "Boy, your progress is too fast, isn't it?" Lowe's muttered to himself, dumbfounded. Zhuan was a little embarrassed as he scratched his head. Advancing to the great success, saintly body had given him a big surprise. He had just advanced, but his saintly body's power was already on par with Liao Xi's. This was beyond his expectations. Let's go. The commotion you created just now was a bit big. I'm afraid it attracted the attention of the surrounding forces. Let's hurry to the burning sky city. Long Xiaotian drove the 4 bronze chariot and landed next to Zhuan and Lo's. Let's go. Zhuan and Lo's did not have any objections. After the two of them entered the 4 bronze chariot, Long Xiaotian drove the chariot in the direction of the burning flame tower. Not long after the 3 of them left, the forces within a radius of 10,000 miles sent cultivators to investigate. When the cultivators who were sent out saw the dilapidated scene, they were all stunned and at a loss for what to do. Who caused this? Isn't it too terrifying? I'm afraid only a saint can cause such a terrifying power. Moreover, it must be an extremely powerful saint. Chapter 1538. Xia Bingyu, Burning Sky City is right in front of us. On a hillside, the 4 bronze chariots stood quietly. Long Xiaotian pointed at the huge city that was burning with flames that soared into the sky thousands of meters away. We're finally here. Looking at the enormous city, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a trace of bright light. He knew that he was only a city away from the beautiful figure that he yearned for day and night. Chen Shui and Mother are both in this city. Zhuan muttered in a low voice, his eyes blurred. That's right. Xiao is in the burning flame tower. I've said it before, I will definitely save Xiao with my own hands. Long Xiaotian slowly clenched his fists, his entire body trembling because of excitement and anticipation. Yes, this day will come soon. Father, you don't have any concealment techniques? Why don't you enter the Azure Dragon Palace first? Zhuan said to Long Xiaotian. Hearing this, Long Xiaotian did not refuse. Zhou Tianzong had seen him before, and if he were to openly enter Burning Sky City like this, Zhou Tianzong would probably recognize him. However, Zhuan was different. He had the 100 transformation divine arts, so he could change his aura and appearance at will. He could completely change his appearance after entering Burning Sky City, and Lo's had never seen Zhuowen before, so he could naturally follow Zhuowen into Burning Sky City without being noticed. After keeping Long Xiaotian in the Azure Dragon Palace, Yun and Lo's walked towards Burning Sky City. At this moment, the entrance of Burning Sky City was extremely lively. There was an endless stream of people and carriages. In this long stream of people, there were many powerful saint martial artists and semi-saints. However, most of them were Emperor Realm experts. It's so lively today. There are actually so many martial artists gathered at the entrance of Burning Sky City? Zhuan muttered to himself in surprise. Hee, could it be that this brother doesn't know that a joyous event has happened in Burning Heaven City recently? Just as Zhuan was talking to himself, a low voice sounded. Then, Zhuan turned around with a strange expression on his face. Behind him, a group of young women with graceful figures slowly walked over. This group of young women had bright eyes, a face like a flower, and a face like the moon. Their graceful bearing was a feast for the eyes. Every single one of these young women was a target that countless men would crazily pursue. At this moment, there were countless gazes in the surroundings that landed on this group of women. These gazes were all filled with passion. In the center of this group of young girls, there was a proud figure. This figure was dressed like a scholar and held a folding fan in his hand. He had delicate features and cheeks that were as red as peach blossoms. He had a graceful bearing and was a beautiful beauty. Zhuan looked at the scholar in front of him with a strange gaze and carefully sized him up. The reason why he did this was mainly because the scholar in front of him did not have an Adam's apple on his neck. Moreover, looking at his face, he could tell at a glance that this guy was a woman dressed as a man. However, such a woman dressed as a man was actually imitating the playboy's attitude. Hugging left and right, she was having fun teasing the young women around her. It's the successor of the 9 Saint Heavenly Gate, Xia Bingyu. The 9 Saint Heavenly Gate has produced 9 saints. Although they are from different eras and it is unknown how many saints there are in the sect now, Its foundation is extremely deep and terrifying. It is not something that ordinary forces can compare to. Especially this Xia Bingyu. It is said that she was born in the Nine-Saint Heavenly Gate under the protection of the Nine Saints. Her Heavenly Saint armor soul was once one of the 9 saints of the Nine-Saint Heavenly Gate. It is extremely terrifying and is the next leader of the Nine-Saint Heavenly Gate. However, although this Xia Bingyu is a woman, she has the heart of a man. Every time she goes out, she dresses as a man and has beautiful maids by her side. She looks like an elegant and frivolous young master. Listening to the discussions around him, Lun also knew the identity of the woman dressed as a man in front of him. Before coming to the southern barbarian land, Zhuowen had naturally inquired about the situation in the southern barbarian land. He had indeed heard of the Nine-Saint Heavenly Gate. In the southern barbarian land, the Nine-Saint Heavenly Gate was considered a great power with an extremely deep foundation. I really don't know what the good news is. I wonder if this young master can tell me a thing or two. Zhuowen asked with a faint smile. Since this Xia Bingyu liked to dress as a man, then Zhuowen would accompany her. Anyway, he also knew that he would not have any interaction with this Xia Bingyu. This time, he would naturally try to get more information from her. Hearing Zhuowen's address, Xia Bingyu's beautiful mouth curved into a smile. She stepped in front of Zhuowen and pressed her folding fan against Zhuowen's chest. She moved closer to Zhuowen and said with a wretched smile, "Brother, what do you think of my maids?" Zhuowen was stunned. He did not expect this Xia Bingyu to suddenly ask such a question. Captivating beauty, devastatingly beautiful, graceful and virtuous. Zhuowen commented without blushing or skipping a beat. Haha, brother's evaluation is very pertinent, very pertinent. Wonderful, wonderful. The maids of Xia Bingyu, are naturally peerless beauties. Otherwise, how could they be qualified to stay by my side? Xia Bingyu laughed and returned to the maids behind her. She hugged them left and right and even sucked the clavicles of the maids in an exaggerated manner. She really looked like a thirsty wolf. However, Zhuowen's eyelids twitched. Although he wanted to scold the Xia Bingyu for being crazy and perverted, he held back in the end. I am Xia Bingyu from the Nine Saints Heavenly Sect. How should I address you? Xia Bingyu came back to her senses and smiled at Zhuowen. I am just a wild crane. My name is Miefun. This is my brother Lo's. Just now, young Master Xia did not tell me. What is the joyous occasion in Burning Sky City? Lun smiled faintly. Xia Bingyu raised her beautiful eyes and said, Miefun? This name was a little interesting. Wasn't this a joyous occasion already known to everyone in Burning Sky City? Seeing that brother Miefun is new here, I will tell you about it. This time, the Holy Maiden of the Burning Heaven Sect and the young Palace Master of the Snow Palace of the North Pole are going to be married. For this reason, the Sect Master of the Burning Heaven Sect is holding a grand banquet. All the major forces of the South Pole have invited this joyous occasion. It is said that even the fierce Tiger Sect of the Western region has been invited. Zhuowen's eyes slowly narrowed as a chill surged. It seemed that Elder Yen was right. The Burning Heaven Sect was indeed planning to marry the Snow Palace. Zhuowen's strange behavior naturally did not escape Xia Bingyu's eyes. She was a little surprised that the young man in front of her suddenly revealed a cold expression. Hee, I also heard that in a few days, the Palace Master of the Snow Palace will bring many experts to Burning Sky City. At that time, the Burning Heaven Sect Master will personally come out to welcome them. At that time, there will be a grand banquet. That is truly a joyous occasion. At this point, Xia Bingyu giggled. That charming chuckle, coupled with the incongruity of her male disguise, had a special charm that attracted the gazes of the surrounding warriors. Xia Bingyu was originally a beautiful woman. Even if she deliberately disguised herself as a man, it was still difficult to conceal her peerless beauty. On the contrary, it added a strange charm to her. I see. Thank you for your reminder, young Master Xia. I still have some urgent matters to attend to in the city, so I will take my leave first. Hun cupped his hands. He originally intended to step into Burning Sky City, but Xia Bingyu obviously did not want to let Zhuowen leave just like that. She actually blocked his path. Young Master Xia, Is there something else? Looking at Xia Bingyu in front of him, Zhuowen asked indifferently. Even Zhuowen could not figure out why Xia Bingyu was suddenly so interested in him. It was a little strange. Of course, Wen was not the only one who was strange. The surrounding warriors were also extremely puzzled. Jin and Lo's were alone in front of them, and their auras were concealed. Such ordinary people should be buried in the crowd and inconspicuous. But now, the dignified successor of the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate, Xia Bingyu, was actually so friendly to them. This was extremely inconceivable to the crowd. Xia Bingyu liked to disguise herself as a man, and also liked to learn from the secular world's young masters. She liked to flirt with hundreds of flowers. However, Xia Bingyu was extremely arrogant. She would not even bother with ordinary people. But now, Xia Bingyu actually took the initiative to chat with the two ordinary people in front of her. She even seemed to be quite friendly. This was extremely inconceivable to the crowd. Brother Miefan, your attitude is a little bad. Can't I find you for no reason? Just now, the two of us hit it off so well. From now on, you are my brother, Xia Bingyu. At this point, Xia Bingyu moved closer to Zhuowen and revealed a wretched smile. She whispered, Brother Miefan, these maidservants of mine are all beautiful and beautiful. If you like them, I don't mind giving you one. I guarantee that she will serve you well. I only made this suggestion because I treat you as my brother. Otherwise, there won't be another chance like this. Zhuowen's eyes slowly narrowed. This Xia Bingyu had been constantly talking to him from the beginning. Zhuowen felt a little strange. Now that he wanted to enter Burning Sky City, this Xia Bingyu was actually pestering him. This made him feel that something was wrong. Zhuowen glanced at the group of maidservants behind Xia Bingyu. With a hook of his right hand, he lifted Xia Bingyu's delicate chin without any warning. At this moment, Zhuowen and Xia Bingyu looked at each other. Their cheeks were so close that Xia Bingyu could even feel Zhuowen's heavy and warm breath. Xia Bingyu obviously did not expect such a turn of events. For a moment, she was stunned and could only stare blankly at the young man in front of her. Then, the young man in front of her spoke softly. If I say that I want you, will you serve me well? The voice that drilled into her ears had a trace of strange magnetism. It was also a little low, causing Xia Bingyu to feel numb all over. She almost lost her balance. What are you doing? Chapter 1539. Prince Raven. This sudden turn of events instantly petrified countless warriors in the surroundings. No one had expected the young man named Miefan to be so audacious. He lifted Xia Bingyu's chin in front of everyone and said such impudent words. Although Xia Bingyu looked unrestrained on the surface, she was extremely arrogant in her bones. She was the only one who teased others, and no one had ever teased her so brazenly. However, Miefan had done it. This shocked the surrounding people and made Xia Bingyu furious. It was so much so that many of Xia Bingyu's admirers in the surroundings looked at Zhuowen with gazes that were filled with hostility and coldness. What are you doing? Are you courting death? Xia Bingyu's eyes were like frost as she stared at Xun. Her previous unrestrained manner was gone, and there was only a deep coldness. Clang, clang, clang. At the same time, the group of maidservants standing behind Xia Bingyu had unsheathed their cold swords. Sword Chi soared into the sky, scaring many cultivators around them into retreating. Xia Bingyu's maidservants were all talented disciples nurtured by the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate. They were all very powerful. Now that they saw Xia Bingyu being teased, their flirtatious expressions were instantly replaced by a biting cold. Zhuowen was calm and said, Why are you so angry, young Master Xia? I was just joking just now. You don't have to take it seriously. Xia Bingyu also slowly returned to normal. After she waved her hand to signal the maidservants to put down their weapons, she sized up Zhuowen with her beautiful eyes. However, she did not dare to approach Zhuowen like before. She had always been the one who teased others, but now she was being teased by this young man. This made Xia Bingyu feel embarrassed, but there was nothing she could do. After all, she had walked into the trap earlier. Hee hee, it's really lively here. A slightly ear-piercing voice sounded. Then, The crowd on the side opened up a path for a slender young man with a gloomy expression to walk over slowly. Two black-robed old men followed behind the young man respectfully. The three of them were dressed in unique attire. A black crow with its wings spread out was embroidered on the front of their clothes. It looked very out of place. It's the Dark Crow sect. That's a force that's not any weaker than the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate. Could this young man be Prince Raven? It's Prince Raven. Look at the two people behind him. They should be the two wise men. These two old men are basically inseparable from Prince Raven. As long as Prince Raven is around, there will be the two wise men. It's said that Prince Raven has always had a soft spot for Xia Bingyu. However, it's a pity that Xia Bingyu likes to dress up as a man. She doesn't like men, but she likes women. Prince Raven has always returned empty-handed. The moment Prince Raven walked over, many of the surrounding cultivators retreated. Prince Raven was not someone to be trifled with. Moreover, looking at his posture, it was obvious that he was coming for Xia Bingyu. No one wanted to provoke him. Prince Raven? Seeing the Dark Crow Crown Prince walking over, Xia Bingyu wrinkled her jade-like nose and said somewhat unhappily, Miss Xia has a good memory. I'm really flattered that you still remember me. Prince Raven ignored Zhuowen's existence and stepped in front of Xia Bingyu. Xia Bingyu said coldly, It's indeed quite a coincidence. However, young Master Yin, I still have some matters to attend to. I'll take my leave first. After saying that, Xia Bingyu came to Zhuowen's side and smiled at Tun. Brother Miefan, how about we enter the Burning Sky City together? Xia Bingyu's attitude immediately made Prince Raven's face turn gloomy. His gaze fell on Zhuowen, emitting a deep chill. Brat, if you know what's good for you, hurry up and scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for not reminding you when you die. Yin Yen said sinisterly. As soon as these words were spoken, Zhuowen's eyes slowly narrowed. He did not expect Prince Raven to threaten him so openly, and the surrounding martial warriors did not seem to be surprised at all. Obviously, this was Prince Raven's style. Without a doubt, the surrounding martial warriors all looked at Zhuowen with pity and sympathy. Some of them were even secretly gloating. Xia Bingyu's beautiful eyes turned slightly as she looked at Zhuowen calmly. The corner of her mouth revealed a sly smile. At this juncture, she suddenly acted so warmly towards Zhuowen. Naturally, it was not for no reason, but for Prince Raven to see. Prince Raven had been pestering her for a long time, and she was annoyed by Prince Raven's pursuit. Now, using Zhuowen as a shield was the most appropriate thing to do. Moreover, because of Zhuowen's impudent behavior, Xia Bingyu was constantly blaming Zhuowen. This was a small revenge from before. What? Don't you understand human language? If you don't scram, you better think about the consequences. Seeing that Zhuowen did not move, the corner of Prince Raven's mouth became colder and colder. He thought that Zhuowen was stunned by him, so he shouted again. Zhuowen slowly turned around and immediately placed his right hand on Xia Bingyu's shoulder without any warning. Pulling her to his side, he said to Prince Raven, This one is happily chatting with young Master Xia. Who do you think you are? How dare you stick your foot in? Little do you know that your foot is dirty and smelly. It's disgusting. In an instant, everyone was stunned. Even Prince Raven was stunned on the spot. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Zhuowen and Xia Bingyu, who was suddenly pulled to his side by Zhuowen. The silence continued. The smile on Xia Bingyu's face suddenly froze. A powerful aura burst out and rushed to the sky, wanting to blast Zhuowen away. Zhuowen smiled. The power of the divine body condensed on his right hand. It was like thousands of mountains, fiercely suppressing Xia Bingyu. Even if she used all her strength, she could not move. At this moment, Xia Bingyu was shocked. She was the successor of the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate. Since she was young, she had been taught by the saint in the sect. Now, at such a young age, she was still a void profound saint. However, even though she had unleashed the aura of a saint, she was still restrained by Zhuowen's right hand and could not move at all. This guy, Xia Bingyu, was both shocked and furious, especially when their bodies were almost pressed together. This caused Xia Bingyu to feel extremely ashamed. With a swoosh, her exquisite face became incomparably crimson, like a cherry that had been dyed in the mountains. In the eyes of outsiders, Xia Bingyu's struggling posture was like a spoiled little girl. This made the eyes of many warriors spit fire. They almost rushed up and punched Zhuan. As for Zhuowen, he was as calm as an ancient well. Even the continuously struggling woman under his right hand did not cause the slightest ripple in Zhuowen's heart. He did this not because he was lustful, but because he wanted to properly punish this woman who wanted to use him. This was because he hated it when people used him. Hearing Zhuowen's provocative words and the intimate actions between Zhuowen and Xia Bingyu, Prince Raven's lungs were about to explode. Prince Raven's handsome face turned purple. "You're courting death!" Prince Raven roared. He stomped on the ground and jumped up. The black gas in his body rushed out and formed a huge shadow of a dark crow behind him. That terrifying aura seemed to be able to swallow the heavens and earth. "Kid, no matter where you come from, you're going to die today. You're going to die miserably." Prince Raven had a pair of black wings on his back. The black gas that escaped from his body converged into a huge dark crow. He looked down at Zhuan with eyes full of cruelty. "Zhuan, do you want me to beat him to death for you?" Liao Si slowly walked forward, tilted his head, and asked Zhuowen with a smile. "Sure, but don't kill him. Just beat him up," Zhuowen said indifferently. The conversation between Zhuowen and Lowe's was heard clearly by the surrounding people. Many of them looked at Zhuowen and Lowe's strangely. Prince Raven was the monstrous genius of the Dark Crow sect. Yin Yen was older than Xia Bingyu by dozens of years. Therefore, his cultivation was stronger than Xia Bingyu. He had reached the second mystic nirvana saint realm. With such a cultivation, he was a rare monstrous genius among the younger generation. Even among the older generation, he was considered a first-rate expert. Now, this bald man who suddenly walked out said that he wanted to beat Prince Raven to death. Such bold words were a little arrogant. The ignorant are fearless. Where did these two guys come from? Haven't they heard of the Dark Crow sect? How dare they say that they want to beat Prince Raven to death? What a joke! After they are taught a lesson by Prince Raven, they will know how ignorant they are. Many of the surrounding warriors sneered, waiting for Lowe's and Zhuan to make a fool of themselves. "Alright, then I'll beat this guy half to death." Lowe's grinned. He stomped his feet and the ground cracked. Lowe's shot out like an arrow and appeared in front of Prince Raven in an instant. Lowe's was too fast. Before Prince Raven could react, Lowe's had already appeared in front of him. Damn it! Prince Raven's expression changed slightly. He formed a seal with his right hand, and the huge dark crow phantom behind him let out a shrill cry. It bent down and grabbed at Lowe's. "It's just a little bird. What can it do to me?" Liao Si sneered and punched out, slamming into the dark crow's claws. The dark crow phantasm let out a miserable shriek towards the sky. Soon after, its enormous body directly crumbled into countless fragments. The crown prince's expression drastically changed as he continuously retreated. His dark crow phantom was the soul of his armor. It was very powerful, and ordinary profound sages might not be its opponent. However, it was destroyed by the bald man in front of him in one move. This was too exaggerated. "Boy, why are you in a daze? Can't wait to be beaten by me?" While Prince Raven was in a daze, Lowe's suddenly appeared in front of him. Lowe's directly slapped him. Chapter 1540. Entering the city plop. Prince Raven was smashed into the ground like a piece of trash, forming a huge crater outside the city. The surrounding cultivators quickly distanced themselves from the huge crater, not daring to approach. Pucci. Prince Raven spat out a mouthful of blood, which was mixed with some broken teeth. Lowe's slap was extremely loud and clear. Prince Raven's mouth was full of broken teeth and blood. He couldn't even get up. Impudent. Prince Raven was defeated too quickly. The two wise men, who had been following him, didn't even have time to react. By the time they did, Prince Raven was already in such a miserable state. Whoosh whoosh. The two wise men were both shocked and furious. They formed a pincer formation and surrounded Lowe's, intending to kill him. Lowe's grinned and threw out a palm, which transformed into a huge hand. Boom. The two wise men didn't even have time to use their limbs before they were pressed to the ground by the huge hand. They were on the verge of death. You want to snatch a woman with your trashy strength? Don't you think it's ridiculous? Jun slowly let go of Xia Bingyu and glanced indifferently at Prince Raven, who was lying in the crater. He called out to Lowe's and walked towards Burning Sky City. At this moment, many of the cultivators in front consciously opened up a path. They didn't dare to block Zhuan and Lowe's. Prince Raven had already been taught a lesson. How would they dare to provoke this fiend in front of them? Of course, they would stay as far away as possible. When Zhuan arrived at the city gate, the guards didn't even dare to charge Zhuan and Lowe's any fees. They carefully invited Zhuan and Lowe's into the city gate. After Lowe's and Zhuan entered Burning Sky City, there was a burst of heated discussion outside the city. Everyone was guessing who this so-called Miefan was. He even dared to teach Prince Raven a lesson. Of course, he did have such a background and strength. Otherwise, Prince Raven wouldn't have suffered such a huge setback in Miefan's hands. Young master, are you all right? The group of beautiful maids surrounded Xia Bingyu and asked with concern. One of the taller maids, young master, with your strength, it shouldn't be difficult to break free from Miefan of arms, right? Why were you? You seem to be clinging to him? Once those words were said, the group of maids became somewhat open-mouthed. They began to discuss spiritedly, and even began to ridicule her. Young master, could it? Don't. We can't lose young master. Young master can't abandon us. That's right. How can young master like a stinky man? How can those stinky men be compared to us sisters? Hearing the maids teasing, Xia Bingyu's delicate cheeks flushed red. These maids weren't her real maids. They were all senior and junior sisters of the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate. They had a good relationship with each other and would often tease her in this regard. You girls, are you itching for a beating? You think I don't want to break free? Miefan is not simple. I can't break free. Xia Bingyu's beautiful eyes looked complicated as she spoke. Xia Bingyu's intuition was much sharper than that of an ordinary person. She could sense auras and things that ordinary people couldn't. Previously, she had noticed Zhuan and Lowe's. Although the two of them looked ordinary, there was nothing special about them. However, her intuition could sense that regardless of whether it was Zhuan or Lowe's, they both gave her a feeling of fear and trepidation. It was as if there was a terrifying beast hidden in their bodies. Can't break free? The group of maids was shocked. Although Xia Bingyu didn't look serious, she was extremely powerful. Miefan, which looked ordinary, was actually able to suppress Xia Bingyu to the point that she couldn't break free. This was unbelievable. Hee, young master really knows how to find excuses. You are obviously in love and don't want to break free. Now you are saying that you can't break free. Young master's joke isn't funny. The tall maid chuckled. Her beautiful eyes were full of teasing. This made Xia Bingyu anxious and angry, but there was nothing she could do. Let's go. Let's enter the city. It's not easy to take advantage of me, Xia Bingyu. As she spoke, Xia Bingyu closed her folding fan and called for the maids behind her. Under the passionate gazes of the crowd, they entered the Burning Sky City. Cough, cough, cough. Prince Raven struggled to support his body. He took out an elixir from his spiritual ring and swallowed it. His originally weak aura finally recovered. After standing up, Prince Raven went to where the two wise men was and fed the elixir to the two wise men. Miraculously, the originally dying two wise men's aura recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Crown Prince, the two of us are useless. After recovering, the two wise men quickly knelt on the ground and begged for forgiveness. Prince Raven waved his hand and said gloomily, "It's not your fault. It's Miefan who hid his strength well. The bald man beside him is actually so powerful and terrifying. Crown Prince, what should we do now? We can't just let Miefan go like this, right? Moreover, Miefan's origin is unknown and his identity is extremely suspicious." Elder Een of the two wise men said in a deep voice. Prince Raven's gaze became more and more gloomy. He took a deep breath and said coldly, "Don't go head-to-head with Miefan. This guy is not simple. However, we can send people to find out his whereabouts. When the time comes, the sect's elders will also arrive at the Burning Heaven sect. That will be the time of his death." The two wise men said respectfully. After Prince Raven entered the burning sky city, the surrounding people began to talk about it. The name of Miefan also began to spread among a small number of people. The burning sky city was indeed huge. The streets were lined with shops on both sides of the street. People shuttled back and forth like a long dragon. During this time, there were endless shouts and shouts. This burning sky city really lives up to its name. All the buildings here have something to do with fire. Walking on the bustling street, Lowe's could not help but click his tongue in wonder. His eyes shone. He saw that the pavilions in the burning sky city, whether it was a dilapidated tile-roofed house, a vermilion lacquered courtyard, or a bustling palace, were all surrounded by flames of various colors. The reason for this was that all the buildings in the burning sky city were made of a type of fiery stone. This type of fiery stone was born with flames. The surface of the stone would emit flames of various colors. Different types of fiery stones produced different colors of flames. The flames produced by the fiery stones were beneficial to warriors who cultivated fire-based cultivation techniques and laws. Those warriors who cultivated fire-based cultivation techniques would get half the results with twice the effort if they cultivated in such buildings. Moreover, the more fiery stones used, the more obvious the benefits would be. Therefore, the larger and more luxurious the buildings, the more powerful the owner of the buildings would be. As for those pitiful tile-roofed houses and other small buildings that flickered with sparse flames, they were basically the residences of weaker warriors. In the burning sky city, the strength of a warrior could be seen from the buildings they resided in. Although the temperature of the flames emitted by the fiery stones was quite high, it did not have any effect on powerhouses like Lowe's and Juon. Moreover, Juon also discovered that after entering the city that was wrapped in flames, the fire-based laws contained in his body had become active. Looking at this sign, cultivating fire-based laws in the burning sky city will get twice the results with half the effort. Feeling the blazing fire-based energy around him, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a trace of intoxication as he muttered in a low voice. I see that many warriors on the streets of the burning sky city are talking about the marriage between the burning heaven sect's holy maiden and the ice palace's young palace master. That holy maiden should be the one you want to snatch back this time, right? Lowe's cast a sidelong glance at Zhuon and said. Zhuon did not make a sound. His gaze fell on the burning flame tower in the center of the burning sky city, and he nodded slightly. Lowe's looked around and sighed softly. The burning heaven sect of the southern wilderness is really much stronger than the Blue Dragon Hall. Just the scale of the burning sky city alone is not something that any major force in the Eastern Territory's 9 Nether Realm can compare with. Moreover, this burning heaven sect has a marriage alliance with the Ice Palace. It can be seen that the so-called Ice Palace is not much weaker than the burning heaven sect. I say, this time, it will be a bit difficult for you to snatch a wife. Zhuon said with a faint smile, it doesn't matter whether it's difficult or not. What I know is that I will definitely be able to snatch Qinshui back. If the burning heaven sect wants to stop me, I will exterminate the burning heaven sect. Speaking of this, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with tyrannical and murderous intent. This time, he, Zhuon, had made sufficient preparations. Whether it was the burning heaven sect or the ice palace, if they wanted to stop him, Zhuon would kill them all. Although it's like this, you can't act impulsively. Although your Ryuka is strong enough, with you, Long Xiaotian, and us mountain gods, your high-end strength is indeed very strong. But the burning heaven sect's background shouldn't be weak. If you act too impulsively, I'm afraid the gains won't make up for the losses. Moreover, your Ryuka might suffer heavy losses. Lowe's reminded. Relax, I know what I'm doing. I won't act impulsively like last time. Zhuon shook his head and laughed. At the same time, he thought of the time when he went to take back Mu Qinshui. He was indeed too impulsive at that time, causing him to leave his hometown and the Divine Academy. Moreover, he was wanted by the entire 9 Nether Realm. Fortunately, he had an immortal sacred artifact like the Azure Dragon Hall. Otherwise, he might have died at that time. Although the 18th mountain god wasn't present at that time, he heard about it from Long Xiaoyun. It said that when the Ice Palace's young palace master arrives at the Burning Heaven sect, Zhou Tianzong plans to hold a banquet. Perhaps that will be an opportunity. Moreover, it said that the Burning Heaven sect's holy maiden will also come out to welcome the Ice Palace's young palace master. Lowe's said in a deep voice. Now we can only wait. Chapter 1541. Jiang Xian Clan. It seems there are two fellows who won't leave us alone. They have been following us all this time. Don't you think we should take action? Liao Si suddenly said. Zhuowen's expression remained unchanged as he said indifferently, I'm afraid that Prince Raven is unwilling to give up and sent them. Lowe's nodded and said with a smile, Do you want me to take care of it? Then I'll have to trouble Senior Lowe's. Since Prince Raven is following us like a ghost, it's time to teach him a lesson. I, then, am not that easy to bully, Zhuon said with a faint smile. After saying that, Lowe's disappeared behind Zhuon. After a while, Lowe's reappeared behind Zhuon and said with a grin, Those two fellows won't be able to disturb us anymore. Zhuon nodded. Soon after, he and Liao Si found a place to stay in Burning Sky City and temporarily stayed there. After all, Zhuon and Lowe's had just entered Burning Sky City. Even though they had made a lot of preparations beforehand, they still didn't know the exact location of Burning Sky City, let alone the exact location of the Burning Heaven sect. Zhuon and Lowe's planned to explore Burning Sky City for a period of time to understand the situation of the entire city and the Burning Heaven sect. At the same time, they were also waiting for the arrival of the young palace master of the Snow Palace. When the sect master of the Burning Heaven sect, Zhou Tianzong, held a banquet, it would be the best time for them to take action. Zhuon also knew that Mu Chenxue would also appear at that time. In a rather luxurious pavilion in Burning Sky City, Prince Raven was sitting on an armchair with a slightly ugly expression. Crown Prince, the two men we sent out have been killed. I'm afraid they were killed by Mie Fen and Mie Fun. Yin Elder cupped his hands and said in a deep voice. I've underestimated the two of them. Yin Su and Yin Ying's concealment skills are second to none even in the Dark Crow sect. Although the two of them are only invincible Emperor Lords, if they really use their concealment techniques at full strength, coupled with their special armor souls, even saints won't be able to easily discover them. Just where did they come from? At this point, Prince Raven slowly frowned. He had never heard of Miefen's name in the southern barbarian lands. Since the bald man beside Miefen was so powerful and could defeat the two wise men in one move, he was definitely not a nobody in the southern barbarian lands. However, no matter how hard the Dark Crow Crown Prince racked his brains and tried to recall the geniuses and experts of the southern barbarian lands, he couldn't match Mie Fun and the bald man beside him. Crown Prince, do you think the two of them are experts from other regions? After all, the marriage between the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace is a joyous occasion. The sect master of the Burning Heaven sect, Zhou Tianzong, has sent out countless invitations. Some of them were even sent to other regions. Elder Ming, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. His words caused Prince Raven's eyes to shine. He said, Elder Ming is right. The two of them might be experts from other regions. Since they are warriors from other regions, shouldn't we stop here? Old Ian asked cautiously. Prince Raven narrowed his eyes and sneered, Stop? Why should we stop? Even if they are from other regions, so what? Since they have come to the southern barbarian lands, even if they are true dragons, they will still have to lie down. Even if they are ferocious tigers, they will still have to lie down. What's more, Mie Fun is only two people. Our Dark Crow sect is based in the southern barbarian lands. Are we going to swallow our pride when we are humiliated? Moreover, the sect master and the two great guardians are on their way to the Burning Sky City. Mie Fun will be finished by then. The two wise men nodded repeatedly. Although Lowe's was powerful and could defeat both of them in one move, they were still inferior to the Dark Crow sect. However, in their opinion, Liao Si was definitely not a match for the sect leader of the Dark Crow sect. Perhaps the two guardians would be enough to deal with Mie Fun and the other sect leader. It will take some time for the sect master and the great guardians to arrive. Are we just going to wait like this? The two wise men looked at Prince Raven and asked. Prince Raven sneered, "Of course not. I don't know why Xiaobingyu is so interested in Yefun. Isn't the little virtuous prince of the Jiangxian clan in the Burning Sky City a loyal admirer of Xiaobingyu? When I was pursuing Xiaobingyu, the little virtuous prince almost killed me. If the little virtuous prince knew that Xiaobingyu was so interested in Yefun, how do you think the little virtuous prince would react?" The two wise men's eyes shone brightly. They bowed and said, "The crown prince is wise. Let's go. Let's go to the Jiangxian clan. I think the little virtuous prince has already heard the news. We just need to add fuel to the fire." Prince Raven stepped out of the loft with his hands behind his back. The two wise men followed closely behind. They were respectful and did not dare to be negligent. The Jiangxian clan was a famous force in the Burning Sky City. It was one of the few forces in the Burning Sky City. Other than the Burning Heaven sect, it was a powerful force with a saint. Whether it was in the Southern Barbarian or the Eastern Barbarian, a force with a saint would prosper and grow stronger. They would become famous and have a deep foundation. Moreover, the Jiangxian clan had a long history. It was said that the Jiangxian clan had already existed before the Burning Sky City was established. In the distant past, the Jiangxian clan had produced many peerless geniuses. In that era, the Jiangxian clan had 7 saints. Moreover, the 7 saints existed at the same time, unlike the 9 saints of the 9 saints of the 9 saints of each generation. In that era, the Jiangxian clan was definitely one of the top forces in the Southern Barbarian. Its fame was almost on par with the Burning Heaven sect. At that time, the Jiangxian clan was regarded as the most powerful force in the Southern Barbarian that could contend with the Burning Heaven sect. However, in the Jiangxian clan's heyday, the Jiangxian clan quickly declined. No one knew the specific reason, but some people guessed that it might have something to do with the Burning Heaven sect. The Burning Heaven sect was the supreme overlord of the Southern Barbarian. It was above all the forces in the Southern Barbarian and even suppressed countless forces in the Southern Barbarian. No one knew how strong the Burning Heaven sect was or how deep its foundation was. However, since the Jiangxian clan's heyday and rapid decline, everyone knew that the Burning Heaven sect was very powerful. It was far more powerful than the Jiangxian clan's heyday. After thousands of years, the Jiangxian clan gradually declined. Although the Jiangxian clan still had a saint, the number of saints could be counted with one's fingers. Some people even guessed that there might only be one saint in the Jiangxian clan. Even though the Jiangxian clan had declined, a centipede would not fall down even if it was dead. After all, the Jiangxian clan once had 7 saints. There were several saint artifacts in the Jiangxian clan. It was said that the Jiangxian clan might even have an ascended saint artifact. Of course, these were all rumors circulating outside. The Jiangxian clan did not make any statement. However, everyone knew that the Jiangxian clan's foundation was very deep. It was not something that ordinary forces could compare with. Many forces respected the Jiangxian clan in the Burning Heaven City. The Jiangxian clan had a large fief in the Burning Heaven City. As one of the oldest forces in the Burning Heaven sect, the Burning Heaven sect naturally would not be stingy with the land. In front of the Jiangxian clan's red lacquer gate, there were 2 towering stone lions. When Prince Raven arrived in front of the red lacquer gate, he was stopped by 2 guards. The Prince Raven of the Dark Crow sect is here to visit the little virtuous king, Jiang Liqing. Are you going to stop me? Prince Raven said indifferently. The 2 guards looked at each other. They purposely looked at the 2 wise men behind Prince Raven and remembered the rumors about Prince Raven. They quickly lowered their heads and said, "We have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. We did not recognize you, Lord Prince Raven." Prince Raven nodded and asked indifferently, "Do you know where Jiang Liqing is now?" "It's just past 5 in the morning." Young Master Jiang should be practicing martial arts in the martial arts pavilion. Lord Prince Raven has arrived. Do you need us to inform him? The guard answered honestly. No need. It's not the first time I've come to the Jiangxian clan. I'll go directly to the martial arts pavilion to find Jiang Liqing. Prince Raven shook his head and stepped into the Jiangxian clan. Just like what Prince Raven said, he was very familiar with the Jiangxian clan. Soon, he arrived at a huge pavilion that was burning with purple flames. There was a stone tablet in front of the pavilion, and the words, "Martial Arts Pavilion," were engraved on the stone tablet, which were formed by purple flames. The martial arts pavilion was not so much a pavilion as it was a huge courtyard. There were flowers, birds, towering trees, streams, and many stone pillars. In the middle of the stone pillars, a figure flashed past like a gust of wind, shuttling back and forth in a strange trajectory. Boom, boom, boom. Finally, the figure flew out of the dense stone pillars and stopped at the same place. Then, the stone pillars behind him turned into dust and dissipated in the air. Looks like Brother Zhang's shadowless snow steps has been cultivated to the point of perfection. Once you take a step, there's no trace and everything is turned into dust. Prince Raven could not help but praise. Shadowless snow steps was the Jiangxian clan's unique skill. Once you take a step, there's no trace and everything is turned into dust. This shadowless snow steps was not only unparalleled in speed, but its destructive power was also extremely shocking. Yin Yan? What business do you have with my Jiangxian clan? The little virtuous King Jiang Liqing was a slender youth with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He was extremely handsome. At this moment, he was wearing a white robe like a white lotus that could not be tainted by anything. At this moment, Jiang Liqing looked at Prince Raven. His handsome face revealed a trace of surprise and his sword-like eyebrows slightly knitted. Prince Raven laughed sinisterly and said, "Today, I've brought you important news. Don't you want to hear it?" Jiang Liqing patted his sleeves and did not pay much attention to Prince Raven. He said indifferently, "I'm not interested in your news. Sword Elder, please send the guest out." Whoosh! Chapter 1542. Jiang Liqing. Prince Raven's complexion immediately turned purple. He didn't expect Jiang Liqing to be so impolite. He didn't even listen to the news and directly asked the Sword Elder to send him off. Looking at the withered old man on the long sword before him, Prince Raven's eyes had a trace of dense fear. The Sword Elder looked like a candle in the wind, an old man who could collapse at any time. However, Prince Raven didn't dare to underestimate this old man who could enter the coffin at any time. This was because he had vaguely heard from the Dark Crow sect's hierarch that this inconspicuous Sword Elder of the Jiangxian family was once one of the 7 sages of the Jiangxian family during their most powerful era. After thousands of years of accumulation, this Sword Elder had lived until now. That was 7,000 to 8,000 years ago. For the present, that was a very long time ago. During that era, Prince Raven knew that the Jiangxian clan was strong enough to threaten the Burning Heaven sect. Therefore, the Burning Heaven sect took action. The Jiangxian clan and the Burning Heaven sect clashed fiercely. In the end, the Jiangxian clan suffered a crushing defeat. Although the Jiangxian clan was strong enough at that time, they still weren't a match for the Burning Heaven sect. At that time, the Jiangxian clan's 7 sages were almost completely wiped out. They suffered heavy losses. However, the Burning Heaven sect didn't exterminate the Jiangxian clan. After all, during the Jiangxian clan's strongest era, if the Burning Heaven sect mobilized a large force to exterminate the Jiangxian clan, it would undoubtedly push the Burning Heaven sect to the forefront of the storm and become a target of public criticism. Moreover, the Burning Heaven sect's actions were done in secret. During that era, there were very few forces who knew that the Burning Heaven sect was the one who did it. The Dark Crow cult was one of the few who knew about it. However, facing a colossus like the Burning Heaven sect, those forces who knew about it all kept silent. Even the Jiangxian clan remained silent in the end. After the Burning Heaven sect's whitewashing, the past was finally covered up perfectly. The Sword Elder was the only one of the 7 saints who had survived back then. Even Prince Raven did not know how powerful the Sword Elder was. However, he knew that if the Sword Elder wanted to kill them, the Sword Elder would only need a single strike to kill him and the 2 wise men beside him. "Prince Raven, you don't need me to send you off personally, do you?" The Sword Elder slowly landed on the ground and placed his right hand on the sword hilt. A sharp and invisible sword force spread out, causing Prince Raven to feel a chill in his heart. If you don't want to know about Xia Bingyu's matter, then I won't force you. Alright, I'll leave it at that. Prince Raven coldly snorted and immediately brought the two wise men with him, intending to leave the martial arts pavilion. Wait, did you just say that this matter is related to Bingyu? Jiang Liqing suddenly shouted. Prince Raven stopped in his tracks and revealed a faint smile. Otherwise, why would I come to find you? It seems that you have been in seclusion for a period of time and don't even know what happened before. Jiang Liqing's sword-like eyebrows slightly knitted. He pointed to a rather exquisite wooden building in the depths of the martial arts pavilion and said, "Then let's go in and have a chat." In the quiet wooden building, Prince Raven and Jiang Liqing sat opposite each other. Prince Raven picked up his teacup and took a sip. He clicked his tongue in wonder and said, "Snow Mountain Jade Drop Tea, what a good tea." "Speak, what happened to Bingyu during this period of time?" Jiang Liqing said indifferently. Previously at the Burning Sky City's gate, Xia Bingyu and a young man named Miefan were pulling each other intimately. As Prince Raven spoke until here, he placed the teacup on the table in front of him and looked at Jiang Liqing with a smile. Jiang Liqing suddenly squeezed the teacup in his hand. Then he said coldly, "Do you think I will believe you? Who doesn't know that Bingyu likes to dress up as a man? How could she have such behavior with other men? Hee, it's up to you to believe it or not. Of course, if you go out and ask around, you will know whether what I said is true or not." Prince Raven said with a smile. Jiang Liqing narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "What is the man's name?" "Miefan, a boy I have never heard of. However, I have to remind you that there is a bald man by Miefan's side who is not simple. He once defeated the two wise men with one move." Seeing Jiang Liqing's strange reaction, Prince Raven chuckled and said with a little exaggeration, "Miefan? I have never heard of such a person or force in the Southern Barbarian. Could it be that he is a representative of a force from another region that was invited by the Burning Heaven sect?" Jiang Liqing said with a frown. "It should be. So if Brother Jiang doesn't want Xia Bingyu to be taken away by others, I think you should take action, right?" Prince Raven glanced at Jiang Liqing and continued, "I have stayed here for long enough. It is time for me to leave. That's all for today. I will pay you a visit another day." "I won't see you out," Jiang Liqing said coldly. Prince Raven was not surprised by Jiang Liqing's cold attitude. After all, Jiang Liqing's personality was relatively cold. In addition, he had a conflict with him because of Xia Bingyu. It would be strange if he had a good attitude. After Prince Raven left the Jiangxian clan with the two wise men, the Sword Elder walked into the wooden house. "Sword Elder, help me investigate a youth named Miefan. I need to know the details of that youth." Jiang Liqing said indifferently. The Sword Elder's turbid eyes did not have any luster. He looked at Jiang Liqing and finally nodded. He did not say anything and left the wooden house. "It seems that I have been in seclusion for too long. I have to go see Bingyu." Jiang Liqing slowly got up and left the wooden house. 3 days later, in a quiet little tea house, Yuan and Lowe's were quietly eating pastries and drinking tea. "In the past few days, I have investigated the Burning Heaven sect. The Burning Heaven sect is located in the central area of the Burning Sky City. The main buildings are the Burning Flame Tower, the Burning Sky Main Hall, and the Saintis Pavilion. I don't need to tell you about the Burning Flame Tower. You should know that it is the prison of the Burning Heaven sect. The Burning Sky Main Hall is Zhou Tianzong's palace. However, the Burning Sky Main Hall is very mysterious. It is a forbidden area in the Burning Sky City. Very few people are allowed to go near it. As for the Saintis Pavilion, I don't think I need to tell you about it. You should know whose residence it is, right?" Speaking until here, Lowe's looked at Zhuan. The latter nodded slightly. He knew that the Saintis Pavilion should be the residence of Mu Chenxua. Also, it is said that the young palace master of the Snow Palace is about to arrive in the Burning Sky City. It should be in the next 3 or 4 days. Zhuan pondered for a while, then said with a frown, "In the past few days, I have also inquired about a lot of things about the Burning Heaven sect in the Burning Sky City. However, no one knows about Feng Xiao. Senior Lowe's, have you found anything?" Lowe's shook his head and said, I have also inquired about Feng Xiao, but the result is similar to yours. There are not many people in the Burning Sky City who know about her. If you want to ask, I am afraid that you can only ask the upper echelons of those big forces. However, we have just arrived and have nothing to do with those big forces. Feng Xiao was the saintess of the previous generation of the Burning Heaven sect. She was also once an influential figure in the Burning Sky City. It had only been more than 20 years since Feng Xiao was imprisoned in the Burning Flame Tower. In such a short period of time, it was impossible for the Burning Sky City to forget Feng Xiao so quickly. And the initiator of this phenomenon was probably the Burning Heaven sect, who had secretly erased everything about Feng Xiao. If we are talking about big forces, perhaps the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate is a good choice. Zhuowen suddenly laughed. He couldn't help but think of Xia Bingyu, who liked to dress up as a man, that he had met outside the city gate. The Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate could be considered a big force with a long history in the southern wilderness, and Xia Bingyu was the successor of the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate. Her status could be considered extremely high. She should know some of the secrets of the Burning Heaven sect. You plan to look for that Xia Bingyu from before? Lowe's gaze was slightly strange. Regarding that weirdo Xia Bingyu, Lowe's memory was still fresh. Of course. With that, Yuan got up and left the small tea house, while Lowe's helplessly followed behind. Regarding Xia Bingyu's whereabouts, Zhuan didn't even need to search much and easily found Xia Bingyu's residence. It wasn't that Zhuowen's tracking ability was strong, but that this Xia Bingyu was too ostentatious. Almost every time she went out, she would bring a large group of maids. In addition, Xia Bingyu was a peerless beauty herself, but she had to dress up as a man. The sense of incongruity revealed by her body was exceptionally eye-catching. Zhuan casually asked on the street and immediately found out where Xia Bingyu lived. This was a hexagonal pagoda-shaped restaurant. Its surface was covered with raging flames, and it was divided into 3 floors. The area was extremely large, and it was bustling with activity. Of course, this was the situation on the first floor. The number of people on the second floor was much smaller. As for the third floor, it was almost empty. This restaurant was opened by the Burning Heaven sect. It was called the Burning Flames Restaurant. There was a Burning Flames formation set up inside, and each floor was stronger than the previous one. The lowest threshold of this restaurant was the high-level Martial Emperor realm. High-level Martial Emperors could only enter the first floor, the second floor required an invincible Martial Emperor, and the third floor required the cultivation of a semi-sage or above. Therefore, one couldn't afford to eat in the Burning Flames restaurant just because they had money. One had to be strong enough to forge iron. If one wanted to hold a banquet in the Burning Flames restaurant, one had to have both money and strength. After Zhuan and Lowe's entered the first floor, they didn't stop at all. They directly walked towards the stairs and ascended to the third floor in one fell swoop. This scene left many cultivators dumbfounded. One after another, they began to discuss the identities of Zhuan and Lowe's. After all, to be able to ascend to the third floor, one had to be a semi-sage or above. Such a cultivation was quite rare and powerful in the entire southern wilderness. Chapter 1543. Burning Flames Restaurant. The number of tables on the third floor was the least. The first floor of the Burning Flames restaurant had several hundred tables, the second floor had 70 to 80 tables, and there were only 8 tables on the third floor. Each table could only accommodate 10 people. At this moment, the 8 tables were almost full. The people sitting at each table were all from the Burning Sky City and the Southern Barbarian Forces, or experts from other regions. The instant Zhuowen and Lowe's walked up to the third floor, they instantly attracted the attention of everyone at the 8 tables on the third floor. However, the gazes that shot over were all filled with ridicule. The 8 tables were already full. Even if they entered the third floor, they could only return empty-handed. Moreover, Yuan and Lowe's before them were extremely unfamiliar. They were probably not disciples of some great power, and were perhaps rogue cultivators with rather strong strength. How could those who were able to enter the third floor be mediocre? Basically, all of them had high standards but low ability and didn't put others in their eyes. Zhuowen looked around the third floor, and his gaze immediately landed on the wine table near the window. He saw Xia Bingyu sitting at the center of the table, surrounded by beautiful female attendants. Hugging each of them, she seemed to be in a very good mood. Xia Bingyu naturally saw Zhuowen, who walked up to the third floor, but she didn't come out to greet him. Instead, she smiled slyly and quietly looked at Zhuowen. "Dear guest, there are no more seats on the third floor. How about we move to the second floor?" A vigorous voice sounded out, and a robust man that was like an iron tower blocked Zhuowen and Lo's path, and he stared at Zhuowen with an expressionless face. This robust man was the owner of the Burning Flames restaurant. His name was Yu Ji, and it was said that he was a disciple of the Burning Heaven sect. Of course, it was impossible for Yu Ji to build such a vast restaurant by himself. It was only with the support of the Burning Heaven sect that the Burning Flames restaurant could be so large. As for Yu Ji, he was only sent by the Burning Heaven sect to manage the restaurant on behalf of the Burning Heaven sect. Haha, not just anyone can come to the third floor of Burning Flame restaurant. Suddenly, a mocking laughter was transmitted from the stairs below. Immediately, a shady young man in a black robe slowly walked up. The black robe in front of this young man had a raven drawn on it. Behind him were 2 old men with powerful auras and 6 other men in black robes. "Prince Raven?" Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and recognized the leader of the black-robed youth. "Oh, it's Prince Raven of the Dark Crow sect." At this moment, the originally expressionless brawny man hurriedly walked in front of Prince Raven and said rather warmly, "I really didn't expect that Prince Raven would take care of Burning Flames restaurant. It was Yu Ji who was negligent." The Dark Crow sect could be considered as one of the top sects in the southern wilderness. Its foundation was not much different from that of the 9 Saints' Heavenly Gate. Most of the forces could not be compared to it. Therefore, the moment Prince Raven entered the third floor, many martial artists on the third floor began to discuss among themselves. Their eyes were filled with dread. Although they thought highly of themselves, they were still inferior to the Dark Crow sect. On the third floor, the only person who could be compared to the Dark Crow sect was the successor of the 9 Saints' Heavenly Gate, Xia Bingyu, who was sitting by the window. "Are the 8 tables on the third floor full?" Prince Raven asked with a frown. Yu Ji waved his hand and said, "The third floor is extremely large. Of course, we have a backup table. Come with me, Your Highness." As he spoke, Yu Ji walked to another window seat near Xia Bingyu. With a flick of his finger, he took out a table that was filled with various delicacies and wine. "Your Highness and the members of the Dark Crow sect, please take a seat," Yu Ji said warmly. He even gestured for them to take a seat. The way Yu Ji treated Zhuowen and Prince Raven was very different. However, the people on the third floor did not feel anything was wrong. The Dark Crow Crown Prince was the successor of the Dark Crow sect, and the Dark Crow sect was one of the top powers in the southern barbarian region. How could a nobody like Zhuowen compare to the successor of such a great power? The Dark Crow Crown Prince arrogantly led the Yin and Ming elders to a seat and said to Yu Ji, "Thank you, Brother Yu Ji. As for the others, I think it's better not to let them stay on the third floor. They are not worthy." "Don't worry, Brother Yin Yen. My Burning Flame restaurant doesn't keep others." Yu Ji understood tacitly, and then he revealed an indifferent expression as he looked at Zhuowen and Liao Si and said, "There are no more seats on the third floor. Please leave Incineration Flame restaurant." Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. Yu Ji treated him differently. The 8 tables on the third floor were already full. He was asked to leave the third floor and find a seat on the second floor. When the Dark Crow Crown Prince reached the third floor, Yu Ji's attitude was extremely humble. He laughed and chatted like a grandson and even took out a spare table, intending to drive the 2 of them out of the restaurant. Lo's, who was standing next to Zhuowen, could not help but want to attack. However, he was stopped by Zhuowen. Zhuowen glanced at Yu Ji indifferently and mocked unhurriedly, "Is this how your Burning Flames restaurant treats its guests? You drive away your honored guests and give a spare table to a piece of trash. Are you blind?" As soon as these words came out, the entire third floor fell into silence. Whether it was the people at the original 8 tables or Yu Ji, they were all stunned. As for Prince Raven, who was sitting at the spare table, his face immediately flushed red. Anger rose from his head as he glared at Jun. "What did you say? Do you dare to say it again?" Yui came back to his senses, but his face became gloomy as he stared at Jun. The Burning Flame restaurant had the support of the Burning Heaven sect. Therefore, not only was it famous in the Burning Heaven city, it was also not an existence that ordinary people could provoke. Generally, martial warriors who entered the Burning Flame restaurant to set up a feast were all polite and cautious. They relied on the reputation of the Burning Heaven sect. But now, this unknown young man in front of him actually dared to point at him and say that he was blind. This truly angered Yuji. Even the martial warriors at the other tables had strange looks on their faces. Wasn't this young man in front of them too arrogant? This Burning Flame restaurant was not simple. It had the support of the Burning Heaven sect behind it. Moreover, this young man even insulted Prince Raven and called him trash. This was practically provoking the lion. However, there were also some sharp people who noticed that Prince Raven, who was sitting by the window, did not immediately take action. Instead, he looked on coldly as if he had turned a deaf ear to Zhuowen's insults. As expected of the successor of a great sect. Although Prince Raven was insulted by this young man, he did not immediately take action. This is truly the demeanor of a great sect. That's right. Who is Prince Raven? How could he lower himself to the level of a nobody? This young man is just a mad dog. He bites anyone he sees, as if he thinks that he can make a name for himself. He doesn't know how laughable and despicable his actions are. There's no need for Prince Raven to take action. I think the Burning Flame restaurant will drive out this troublemaking junior who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Sounds of discussion instantly rang out in the surroundings. There was no lack of people who were flattering Prince Raven. The Dark Crow Crown Prince enjoyed these flattering words and his expression became a lot better. After being taught a lesson by Lowe's, he still had a lingering fear and naturally did not dare to take action. The reason why he was so fearless was naturally because he was in the Burning Flame restaurant. After all, the Burning Flame restaurant was built by the Burning Heaven sect and was fully supported by the Burning Heaven sect. Yuji was just a small manager of the Burning Flame restaurant on the surface. The real manager did not appear. It was said that the real manager seemed to be an elder of the Burning Heaven sect. Ordinary people did not dare to cause trouble in the Burning Flame restaurant not only because of the Burning Heaven sect, but also because of the real manager. He did not believe that Miefen would dare to cause trouble in the Burning Flame restaurant. At this moment, Yuji's sturdy body stood in front of Jun and said coldly, "Do you dare to say it again? You dare to cause trouble in my Burning Flame restaurant? You are not qualified. A mere half-saint is not qualified to be arrogant in front of me. Today, call out the real manager of the Burning Flame restaurant. I want him to be the judge." Zhuowen unhurriedly spat out these words. With a wave of his right hand, a terrifying surge of saint energy spread out. Immediately, Yuji let out a muffled groan as he retreated and sat on the ground. "Saint power? You are a saint?" Yuji sat on the ground and stared at Zhuowen as if he had seen a ghost. He could not help but cry out in shock. Not only Yuji, but the warriors sitting in the banquet on the third floor were also shocked. They looked at Zhuowen with eyes full of disbelief. Even if the comprehensive strength of the southern barbarians was above the eastern land, a saint was still a rare existence. Generally, those who became saints were old monsters who had cultivated for thousands of years in great forces. Those who could cultivate to saint at a young age were basically monstrous geniuses from various regions. Among them, Prince Raven and Xia Bingyu belonged to this type. Prince Raven looked young, but in fact he had cultivated for 50 to 60 years. Xia Bingyu's talent was much higher than Prince Raven's. She was only about 30 years old. However, to be able to become a saint at the age of 100 was already a peerless monstrous genius. As for the young man in front of them, everyone could clearly feel that he was not too old. It was absolutely unbelievable that he had saint power and was a saint. In other words, this young man was very likely to be a monstrous existence like Prince Raven and Xia Bingyu. It was just that they did not know which force he came from. May I know which faction you're from? Yu Ji hurriedly got up and his tone became much more respectful. To be able to cultivate such a young saint, he did not even need to think to know that the force behind this young man was definitely not simple. It's nothing more than a wandering cloud or a wild crane. I've said it before. You treated me so differently earlier. I think I have the right to call out the manager of your Burning Flames restaurant and discuss this matter properly, Zhuowen said unhurriedly. Chapter 1544. Throw them out. Although Zhuan claimed to be a wandering crane, Yuji did not dare to treat the two of them as such. To be able to cultivate to the Saint Realm at such a young age, who would believe that it was possible for a loner to cultivate to the Saint Realm? However, Yuji was a quick-witted person. He quickly went to the window and took out a table full of delicious dishes and wine from his spirit ring. He apologized to Zhuan. Yuji did not serve you well just now. Please forgive me, young master. Yuji will pay for this meal. Zhuan waved his hand and walked straight to Prince Raven's table. He said, I want this table of dishes. Ask these irrelevant people to scram. Prince Raven's face darkened when he heard this. He had previously mocked Zhuowen and Lowe's for being irrelevant people. Now that Zhuan had returned the favor, Prince Raven felt extremely aggrieved. Miefun, don't be too arrogant. This Burning Flame restaurant is not owned by you. How can you run amok here? Prince Raven said coldly. I asked you to scram. Are you deaf? Zhuan was extremely impatient. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at Prince Raven. This Prince Raven liked to use underhanded means. Zhuan did not have a good impression of him. Of course, he did not want to waste his breath on him. How dare you? The two wise men shouted angrily. A surge of saint energy gushed out and charged at Zhuan. The two wise men was an elder of the Dark Crow sect after all. Although his cultivation base was the same as Prince Raven's Nirvana Saint Realm, their combined strength was comparable to a glimpse profound Saint Realm expert. This guy is too impulsive. Even if he has reached the Saint Realm, isn't he too arrogant? He actually wants to drive Prince Raven away. After all, Prince Raven still has the two wise men by his side. There was an uproar in the surroundings. Although many people were shocked by the surge of saint energy from Zhuan, they were still young. In everyone's opinion, even if Zhuan had reached the Saint Realm, he would not be much stronger than Prince Raven, let alone the two wise men by Prince Raven's side. However, the result was out of everyone's expectation. The two wise men. They only two wise men's. They're majestic looking. They're majestically, the two wise men, was sent flying out of the restaurant and house. Two shrieks, the wise men. What? Looking at this scene, the cultivators on the third floor of the restaurant fell into silence again. The two wise men was sent flying with just one move. Wasn't this too exaggerated? Prince Raven's heart trembled. His face turned extremely ugly. His heart was like a raging storm, and he could not calm down for a long time. Previously, he had always thought that this guy was so arrogant because he had Lowe's by his side. However, now that this guy had sent the two wise men flying with just one move, he finally knew that he had underestimated the young man in front of him. Xia Bingyu's table also fell into silence. The maids beside Xia Bingyu were especially stunned. Originally, these maids looked down on Zhuan. After all, Zhuowen's impudent behavior towards Xia Bingyu had caused this group of maids to dislike Zhuan. But now, Zhuan had sent the two wise men flying with just one move. Such a shocking result had truly shocked them. A junior that was able to send the two wise men flying with a single move at such an age was rare in the southern wilderness. Even Prince Raven himself was unable to do it. Are you going to scram yourself, or do you want me to make you scram? Zhuan stood before Prince Raven and looked down at Prince Raven, who was still seated. A terrifying aura crushed down. Prince Raven was still fine, but the other 6 disciples of the Dark Crow cult who were seated started to tremble. You're going too far. Prince Raven roared angrily. Boundless black gas burst out from his body and formed a huge dark crow. At the same time, Prince Raven took out a pitch-black square cauldron from his spiritual ring. The surface of the cauldron was engraved with a pattern of dark crows spreading their wings. It looked like dark clouds. The black crow cauldron. I didn't expect Prince Raven to take out such a saint artifact. Looking at the black square cauldron floating in the air, the surrounding people could not help but be moved. The Black Crow Cauldron was the profound saint artifact used by the master of the Dark Crow cult when he roamed the world. Later, when he saw Prince Raven's amazing talent, he gave the Black Crow Cauldron to Prince Raven when he became a martial saint. Although the Black Crow Cauldron was a profound saint artifact, its power was much stronger than an ordinary profound saint artifact. Its quality had reached the peak of profound saint artifact, and it was famous in Prince Raven's hands. Go to hell! As the successor of the Dark Crow cult, Prince Raven naturally had his own pride. Obviously, he could not tolerate Zhuowen's words. Therefore, he did not hesitate to take out his profound saint artifact. Profound saint artifact? The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. He suddenly threw out a punch and heavily punched the terrifying square cauldron. The Black Crow Cauldron buzzed and was directly sent flying. It heavily smashed onto Prince Raven's body. Prince Raven spat out a mouthful of blood. Bearing the terrifying impact of the Black Crow Cauldron, he was sent flying backward. He directly left the third floor of the restaurant and fell outside. Crown Prince! The faces of the 6 disciples of the Dark Crow cult at the table changed drastically. They chased after Prince Raven and stabilized his body. They stared at Zhuowen in shock and anger. The strength of this young man who suddenly appeared on the 3rd floor of the restaurant was too strong. He actually repelled the 2 wise men with a single palm strike and sent Prince Raven, who was holding the Black Crow Cauldron, flying with a single punch. Moreover, he did it with his bare hands. It was truly terrifying. Zhuowen leisurely sat at the table where Prince Raven had just sat. On the other hand, Lowe's quietly sat beside Zhuowen. He did not intervene in Zhuowen's matter. Speaking of which, ever since Zhuowen had cultivated the saint physique, his combat strength was close to Lowe's. Perhaps Zhuowen did not even care about ordinary Sun Sky Saint Realm experts, let alone a small fry like Prince Raven. Brother Miefan really hid his strength well. You're a little unkind. You're so strong, but you didn't say anything. You're really not very nice. Xia Bingyu closed her folding fan and chuckled. Although Xia Bingyu looked calm, she was very shocked. Previously outside the city gate, she already knew that this young man was not simple. However, the combat strength that Zhuowen displayed today was still beyond her expectations. This made Xia Bingyu even more curious about this young man's origin. Zhuowen smiled and slowly poured 3 cups of wine. He faced Xia Bingyu and said, "Young Master Xia, why don't you come to this table for a chat? I have something that I need your help with. I hope you won't refuse." Hearing this, Xia Bingyu's heart trembled. She did not expect Miefan to come here for her. She did not know why he was looking for her. However, after seeing Zhuowen's performance, Xia Bingyu did not want to be enemies with such a young talent. She smiled and sat at the table where Zhuowen was at with a few maids that were close to her. Brother Miefan is too polite. If you have anything that you need my help with, I will do my best to help you, Xia Bingyu said with a smile. It's like this. As Zhuowen spoke, he used secret sound transmission to speak to Xia Bingyu. Xia Bingyu's smile froze and a trace of caution appeared on her beautiful face. Brother Miefan, why are you suddenly asking about this person? Xia Bingyu asked with some doubt. Zhuowen tapped the table lightly and said indifferently, Young Master Xia, you don't have to ask about the reason. Now, I just want to ask if you can find out about this person. As for the reward, I won't let you down. As he spoke, Zhuowen used secret sound transmission to say, the reward is a profound saint artifact and 10 top-grade celestial pills. How about that? Xia Bingyu was shocked when she heard this. A profound saint artifact and 10 top-grade celestial pills were extremely generous rewards for her. After all, a profound saint artifact was not something that could be found on the streets. The 9 Saints' Heavenly Gate also had a saint artifact of this level, but the quantity was extremely limited. It was even more impossible for them to trade it. However, the young man in front of her had directly promised a profound saint artifact and 10 top-grade celestial pills. Even Xia Bingyu herself could not refuse such generous rewards. Young Master Xia, if you promise to help me find out about this person's whereabouts, I will keep my promise. Of course, I think you're not the only one in the entire Burning Sky City who would be tempted by such a generous reward. Zhuan tapped the table lightly and said indifferently. Xia Bingyu rolled her eyes at Zhuan in annoyance. Her angry manner was full of charm as she said, "Your reward has really moved me." Xia Bingyu pondered for a while and continued, "The Burning Heaven sect has regarded this person as a taboo more than 20 years ago. I don't know his exact whereabouts. It is said that he is in the Burning Flame Tower. As for which floor he is on, I don't know. So, I have to ask the elders of the sect. Wait a few days for me, and I will give you an answer then." "Okay, but you have to be quick." Zhuan nodded. Xia Bingyu nodded seriously, but her beautiful eyes were looking at the young man in front of her with even more curiosity. It had to be said that this young man called Miefun in front of her seemed to be shrouded in a thick layer of fog, making it impossible for people to see through him. At this moment, Prince Raven and his group had landed on the ground in front of the Burning Flame restaurant in an extremely sorry state. At this moment, many warriors in the surroundings were pointing at Prince Raven and his group. Among them, there was no lack of warriors who recognized Prince Raven. Just now, they had clearly seen the scene of Prince Raven and the two wise men being thrown down from the third floor of the Burning Flame restaurant. This made them wonder who the instigator who dared to treat Prince Raven in such a way was. "Yin Yen, you're really in a sorry state. You were even thrown out to drink and eat. How shameful!" An indifferent voice was heard, and then a slender and handsome young man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes walked out from the crowd. Chapter 1545. Unbridled, Jiang Xian clan's little virtuous prince, Jiang Liqing? I didn't expect Jiang Liqing to come as well. When they saw the young man slowly walking over, the crowd below the restaurant involuntarily opened up a path for him. Little virtuous prince, Jiang Liqing, was one of the top geniuses in Burning Sky City. He was once as famous as the Burning Heaven sect's holy son, Yan Ruhua. It was said that before Yan Ruhua and Jiang Liqing became saints, the two of them had a great battle. No one knew the result of that battle, but after that battle, Yan Ruhua went into seclusion for a long time. There was no doubt that Yan Ruhua was at a disadvantage in that battle. It was hard to imagine how Jiang Liqing, whose talent and strength surpassed Yan Ruhua's in Burning Sky City, was nurtured by the Jiang Xian clan. Therefore, Jiang Liqing was secretly called the #1 genius in Burning Sky City. Of course, this discussion was very obscure. After all, the Burning Heaven sect was in charge of Burning Sky City. If this discussion was heard by the Burning Heaven sect, it would probably make the upper echelons of the Burning Heaven sect unhappy. "What did you say? Miefun is also in Burning Flame restaurant?" Jiang Liqing's starry eyes slowly narrowed into a dangerous arc. Previously, he had heard that Xia Bingyu was holding a banquet at the Burning Flames restaurant. Therefore, he had come from the Jiang Xian clan out of admiration. Naturally, he wanted to find Xia Bingyu for a chat. Back then, the arrogant and unruly Jiang Liqing had met the unrestrained Xia Bingyu, who was a woman dressed as a man, and was firmly attracted by her unique temperament. From then on, he became Xia Bingyu's loyal and fanatical suitor. All of Xia Bingyu's suitors were beaten to a pulp by Jiang Liqing and no longer dared to provoke Xia Bingyu. Even Prince Raven was taught a lesson by Jiang Liqing because of his love for Xia Bingyu. Although he wasn't beaten to a pulp like the other suitors, he still suffered quite a bit. "In other words, you were thrown out by Miefun?" Jiang Liqing thought of something and muttered softly. As soon as he said this, Prince Raven's face turned green and purple. In the end, he snorted coldly and said, "Miefun is not simple. Even if you go up against him, I'm afraid you won't be able to gain any advantage." Jiang Liqing smiled and said proudly, "I'm not a piece of trash like you." As he spoke, Jiang Liqing took a step into the Burning Flames restaurant and directly walked towards the third floor. The sword elders silently followed behind him. At this moment, Zhuan and Xia Bingyu were discussing the details softly. The people around the table were silent and did not dare to make a sound. Even Prince Raven had been thrown out like trash, let alone them. As for Yu Ji, he stood awkwardly in the corner of the restaurant. He didn't know whether to advance or retreat. His heart was filled with bitterness. Even he didn't expect that the young man named Miefun in front of him would be so audacious as to cause havoc in the restaurant. Originally, private fights were not allowed in the Burning Flames restaurant. However, after seeing Juan kick the two wise men and Prince Raven out of the restaurant with a single move, Yuji knew that he might have encountered a troublesome person. At that time, if he called out the principal elder and found out that he had neglected such a young talent, he was afraid that he would not be able to bear the consequences. Therefore, the current Yuji was really in a dilemma. Dang dang dang. Suddenly, sharp and clear footsteps came from the stairs. Then, Jiang Liqing with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes led the sword elder to the entrance of the third floor. I didn't expect young Master Jiang to come. What a rare guest. Do you need me to prepare a new table for you? Yu Ji, who originally couldn't find a way out, saw Jiang Liqing at the entrance of the stairs. His eyes lit up as he hurriedly walked in front of Jiang Liqing and spoke respectfully. The instant Jiang Liqing entered the third floor, everyone at the table on this floor burst into an uproar. Jiang Liqing was extremely famous in Burning Sky City and was publicly acknowledged as the #1 person among the younger generation in the hearts of many people. Jiang Liqing waved his hand and said indifferently, "I'm here today to find someone. There's no need to prepare a table." As he spoke, Jiang Liqing walked towards the table by the window where Xia Bingyu and Jun were. A sharp aura gushed out from Jiang Liqing's body. Feeling the sharp aura emitted from Jiang Liqing's body, Yu Ji knew that things weren't going well. He had also heard about Jiang Liqing's love for Xia Bingyu. And now, Xia Bingyu was chatting with a strange man at the table. Even if Jiang Liqing didn't misunderstand this scene, he would still be unable to restrain his anger. "Bingyu, why are you so happy?" Jiang Liqing slowly walked in front of Xia Bingyu and gracefully sat on an empty seat. He ignored Zhuowen and looked at Xia Bingyu with a smile. Xia Bingyu glanced at Jiang Liqing indifferently and said, "It's just some romantic matters. I think that an upright person like young Master Jiang will definitely disdain to talk about such matters." When these words were said, Jiang Liqing's face stiffened, but he quickly recovered. He didn't care about Xia Bingyu's attitude towards him, and smiled as he shifted his gaze to Zhuowen. "I wonder what is the relationship between this brother and Bingyu? If you don't have any relationship with him, you'll attract criticism if you get so close." Hearing Jiang Liqing's somewhat thorny words, Jun laughed it off. Previously, when Jiang Liqing had just entered the third floor, Xia Bingyu had told him about Jiang Liqing's identity, that he was the genius of the Jiang Xian family. Cause criticism. I don't think anyone is criticizing me and Bingyu, right? Instead, it's Brother Jiang who is criticizing us in front of me. Zhuowen said indifferently. Jiang Liqing narrowed his eyes, but smiled slightly. He poured a cup of wine and raised it to Jun. As the saying goes, those who come from afar are guests. I, Jiang Liqing, propose a toast to Brother. Extinguish. Jun also raised his cup and lightly clinked it with Jiang Liqing's. However, the moment the two wine cups touched each other, the wine cups exploded, and the wine spilled all over the floor. A powerful saint energy swirled around, and like a venomous snake, it shot towards Zhuowen. There was no doubt that the moment the two touched the wine, Jiang Liqing made his move without warning. Xia Bingyu's beautiful eyes turned slightly, and a seductive smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. However, she did not say anything to stop him, and only watched the scene quietly. Zhuan was not surprised by Jiang Liqing's move. He slammed his right hand on the table, and immediately, the wine table shattered. Xia Bingyu retreated 10 meters away with her maid, and watched the scene quietly. Zhuan waved his right hand, and the invading saint energy collapsed. Then he suddenly took a step forward, and swept towards Jiang Liqing like lightning. Jiang Liqing's starry eyes narrowed. He did not expect Zhuowen's strength to be so strong, to be able to annihilate his saint energy, and still have the strength to counterattack. However, Jiang Liqing was very confident in his own strength. He took a step forward with his right foot, and the shadowless snow steps was unleashed to the extreme. As soon as he took a step forward, he disappeared without a trace, like smoke, and disappeared in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen sneered. Compared to him, who had mastered the Wind Thunder Sacred Rune and the Law of the Void, Jiang Liqing was just showing off in front of an expert. Zhuan stomped his foot, and the law of the void appeared like countless tentacles, and the void around him suddenly collapsed. Then, Jiang Liqing, who was using the shadowless snow steps to attack Zhuan from behind, had a drastic change in his expression. The collapsed void was like a shackle, and it restrained his rapidly moving figure. Swoosh! The moment Jiang Liqing's figure slowed down, a huge hand that seemed to cover the sky swept over and slammed heavily in front of Jiang Liqing. The huge hand was simple, and there was not even a trace of the power of law. It did not even have the ordinary saint energy, and this made Jiang Liqing look at it with disdain. Lightning, seal. Jiang Liqing snorted coldly, and the law of lightning and seal that he had mastered gathered on his right palm. Then, his right palm suddenly slammed out. Endless thunderbolts formed a magnificent thunderbolt sealing gate in midair and suppressed the giant hand. Jiang Liqing believed that this attack would definitely be able to completely suppress the giant hand, and Miefun would probably suffer a lot. However, what happened in front of him quickly gave Jiang Liqing a tight slap. He saw the huge hand gently press down, and the lightning seal door directly shattered. Then, the huge hand swept in front of him like a bolt of lightning, and suddenly slapped him. Slap. A crisp slap sounded, and Jiang Liqing was directly sent flying by the slap, and the right side of his face was swollen. Young master! This change was so sudden that the silent sword elder did not react in time. When Jiang Liqing was sent flying out of the restaurant, sword elder came back to his senses and took a step forward, wanting to catch up with Jiang Liqing. I say, old man, I think it's best if you don't interfere in the affairs of young people. Loza's sturdy body stood in front of Sword Elder, and he laughed with some bad intentions. Scram! Sword Elder shouted angrily. His right hand had unknowingly taken out a simple long sword, and he suddenly swung it at Loz. Terrifying sword chi shot out like a hidden weapon, and it was extremely spectacular and exciting. Loz sneered, and the power of his great success Saint body poured out. He punched out, and the air was torn apart. Suddenly, the countless sword lights in front of him were directly destroyed. Although Sword Elder was one of the 7 saints of the Jiangxian family, and he was an old man who had lived for thousands of years, his cultivation was only at the peak of the profound sage realm. His cultivation had not reached the heaven sage realm, and it was impossible for him to be Loza's opponent. Therefore, Sword Elder let out a muffled groan under this punch, and he repeatedly retreated. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and it was a ghastly sight. At this moment, a group of people had gathered outside the restaurant, and all of them were staring at the figure that flew out of the 3rd floor of the Burning Flames restaurant. It's the young virtuous monarch, Jiang Liqing. Just like the Dark Crow Crown Prince, he was directly thrown out. Who the hell is in the 3rd level to be able to continuously kick out geniuses like the young virtuous monarch and the Dark Crow Crown Prince? Jiang Liqing fell to the ground, and it caused an uproar in the surroundings. It was fine that Prince Raven was thrown out, but even Jiang Liqing was thrown out so impolitely. It could be seen that the instigator of the 3rd floor was not simple. Scram, don't affect my mood. If you dare to provoke me again, Miefun, will kill you regardless of what force you are from. Chapter 1546. Make amends and apologize. The indifferent voice was like thunder. It boomed through the surroundings of the restaurant. Basically, everyone in the restaurant could hear the voice reverberating through the place. The moment this voice slowly sounded, another miserable-looking figure flew out from the 3rd floor of Burning Flame restaurant, landing heavily near Jiang Liqing. Elder Jian. Jiang Liqing, who was furious and wanted to go up to the 3rd floor of the Burning Flames restaurant, was shocked when he saw the miserable figure in front of him. Although he was angry that he was thrown out, he was not too shocked. However, even Elder Jian was thrown out like trash. Jiang Liqing really had to take Miefun seriously again. Elder Jian, are you all right? Jiang Liqing helped Elder Jian up and said worriedly, Elder Jian, why are you? Elder Jian sheathed his unadorned longsword. His cloudy eyes stared at the 3rd floor of the Burning Flames restaurant solemnly as he said in a deep voice, "Young master, let's not provoke this lad anymore. The bald man beside him is not simple. If I'm not mistaken, the bald man is probably at the quintessential saint stage. I'm afraid his strength is not weaker than Lord Jiangxian." Jiang Liqing's eyes narrowed when he heard that. Lord Jiangxian was the current patriarch of the Jiangxian clan. He was extremely talented and was a peerless genius that suddenly rose after the Jiangxian clan had declined for 1,000 years. Lord Jiangxian's cultivation soared and he finally became a saint. In the past 1,000 years, he had reached the quintessential saint stage. However, Lord Jiangxian rarely appeared in the world and had always been in seclusion in the clan's forbidden area. Jiang Liqing had never seen Lord Jiangxian. Elder Jian had lived for even longer than Lord Jiangxian. When Lord Jiangxian had not grown up, it was Elder Jian who taught him personally. In the end, Lord Jiangxian became a heavenly saint. The reason why Jiang Liqing was nicknamed Little Sage King was because he respected King Jiangxian. Although Jiang Liqing had never seen Lord Jiangxian, he had heard Elder Jian say that Lord Jiangxian seemed to be breaking through to the Sun Heaven Saint stage. In other words, Lord Jiangxian was at least at the peak of the Sun Heaven Saint stage. As for the bald, brawny man beside Miefun, he was compared to King Jiangxian. It could be seen that the bald, brawny man also had the strength of a heavenly saint. It would be best for our Jiangxian clan to be friends with these two, not enemies, the sword elder said in a deep voice. Upon hearing this, Jiang Liqing's heart trembled. Although he was unwilling, he was not an impulsive person. Since the bald man beside Miefun was so terrifying, he knew when to advance and when to retreat. "Sword elder, let's go." In the end, Jiang Liqing let out a soft sigh and left the Burning Flames restaurant with Sword Elder. "Jiang Liqing, your woman has been snatched away. Are you just going to ignore it?" Prince Raven was also somewhat moved. He did not expect the Sword Elder to be thrown out. It seemed that Miefun was not simple. However, seeing that Jiang Liqing was about to leave with the Sword Elder, Prince Raven couldn't help but speak out. Boom! Before Prince Raven could finish his words, a shadow rushed over like a bolt of lightning and heavily struck in front of Prince Raven. Prince Raven obviously did not expect such an unforeseen event. For a moment, he was at a loss. A dark crow stood in front of him to protect him. Gotcha! However, this dark crow was like a piece of paper and directly shattered. Prince Raven let out a muffled groan and continuously retreated. His gaze was gloomy as he looked at Jiang Liqing, who was stepping on the snow without a shadow. A shadow flashed past and landed on the ground. Jiang Liqing indifferently stared at Prince Raven and said, "Yin Yen, your provocation is very stupid. If you feel unhappy, you can go ahead. Don't use this kind of inferior provocation. It will only make me look down on you." After he finished speaking, Jiang Liqing brought the Sword Elder and left the place. "Crown Prince, are you all right?" The two wise men hurriedly came to Prince Raven's side and asked with concern. "I'm fine. Let's go too." Feeling the surrounding people pointing at him, Prince Raven's face was a little embarrassed. First, he was thrown out by Miefun. Now, he was slapped in the face by Jiang Liqing. This was too embarrassing. He simply did not have the face to stay. After Prince Raven left the place, everyone was discussing animatedly. The topic of discussion was naturally Miefun. At the same time, there were also some busybodies who revealed the conflict between Prince Raven and Miefun outside the Burning Sky City. Not many people knew what happened outside the city gate, so most people did not know about Miefun. However, after such a commotion at the Burning Flames restaurant, especially after the little virtuous Prince Jiang Liqing and Prince Raven suffered a great loss at the hands of Miefun, Miefun's name would probably be known by most people. At this moment, the third floor of the restaurant was already empty. After witnessing Zhuo Wen and Liao Xi's terrifying battle prowess, the cultivators at the other tables all left the third floor with their tails between their legs, not daring to stay any longer. Yu Ji, on the other hand, was standing on the side, as if he was sitting on pins and needles. He could not sit, nor could he leave. He could only watch as Zhouan and Xia Bingyu talked about something. Yu Ji had also heard of the Jiang Xian family's Sword Elder. He was a sage at the peak of the profound sage realm. In the eyes of the Burning Flames restaurant, he was definitely a distinguished guest. However, such a peak profound sage was still thrown out of the restaurant like trash by the burly bald man. Yuji knew that this time, he had provoked someone he didn't dare to provoke. Therefore, at this moment, he was burning with anxiety and at a loss for what to do. Principal Elder? Yuji, who was originally uneasy, did not know when, but when he found that a serious-looking old man had appeared in front of him, he quickly cupped his hands and heaved a sigh of relief in his heart, as if he had found his backbone. This elder was wearing a fiery red robe, and his hair was light red. From afar, he looked like a burning flame. At the table, Jun looked at the principal elder who had suddenly appeared with a faint smile. Previously, when he had a conflict with Prince Raven, he knew that this principal elder had already appeared. However, this principal elder was very clever. He did not immediately come out, but hid in the dark and quietly observed the situation. Now, after Jun had dealt with all the conflicts, this principal elder came out as if he was giving advice after the fact. This made Jun feel quite disapproving. The principal elder did not speak. He raised his right hand and directly slapped Yuji. The crisp sound of the slap could be heard clearly in the entire Burning Flames restaurant. Yuji was caught off guard and was directly hit. He spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with his teeth. Then he suddenly fell to the ground, his cheeks swollen, looking very miserable. Blind dog, you even dare to neglect young Master Miefun. You really have wasted your dog eyes. The principal elder said coldly. Then he slowly walked to Zhuowen's table and said politely, Young Master Miefun, that bastard Yuji has eyes but does not recognize Mount Tai. He did not recognize you. Please be magnanimous and don't take offense. Zhuon smiled and waved his hand. I did not take this matter to heart. Principal elder, you don't have to take it to heart. Seeing that Zhuon did not have any intention of blaming him, the principal elder was relieved. He also let out a sigh of relief in his heart. The principal elder had clearly seen the scene of Lowe's throwing the sword elder out. He dared to conclude that the Lowe's was definitely at the Sky Saint stage. As for which realm he was at, he could not tell. Although the Burning Heaven sect behind the Burning Flames restaurant wasn't afraid of ordinary Sky Saints, he couldn't offend such an expert over such a small matter, right? Moreover, the two of them looked extremely mysterious. Who knew if the force behind them was extremely terrifying? Therefore, he wouldn't offend a martial warriors with a terrifying force behind them over such a small matter. Young Master Miefun is magnanimous. Yuji hurriedly crawled over and knelt on the ground, kowtowing with extreme sincerity. He knew that if this Miefun in front of him really didn't spare him, the principal elder would kill him without needing Miefun to do anything. Zhuon and Xia Bingyu chatted for a while longer. Under the warm attitude of the principal elder and Yuji, they were sent out of the Burning Flames restaurant. After sending off Zhuon, the principal elder let out a sigh of relief. His eyes flickered as he whispered, Who exactly is this Miefun? With such a terrifying expert by his side, there must be some kind of great force behind him. However, the principal elder racked his brains and couldn't figure out when the southern barbarians had such great strength that they could send a Sky Saint realm expert as a bodyguard. Elder, do you think this Miefun comes from some great force in the Central Plains? After all, Sky Saint realm experts are extremely rare in the southern barbarians. It's even more impossible to send one out as a bodyguard. Yuji poked his head out and carefully said. The principal elder narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, It's possible. However, I need to report this matter to the higher-ups. Perhaps this Miefun is a disciple of some force that the sect master has invited. Along the way, Yuan and Xia Bingyu walked side by side. It could be said that they had become the focus of everyone's attention. Xia Bingyu was a peerless beauty. Even though she was disguised as a man, it was still difficult to hide her natural beauty. In particular, Xia Bingyu was surrounded by maids. All of them were natural beauties. It would be strange if they didn't attract the attention of the surrounding people. Brother Miefun, just wait for my good news. Before the Burning Heaven Sect's World Banquet, I will definitely bring the news to you. Also, you should also have the invitation card of the Burning Heaven sect master, right? Xia Bingyu suddenly said with a smile. Invitation card? Do I need an invitation card to participate in the Burning Heaven sect's world banquet? Yuan asked in surprise. As soon as these words came out, the smile on Xia Bingyu's face stiffened. She stared at Zhuan in disbelief and said, "You actually don't know about the invitation card? Then why did you come to the Burning Heaven city?" "Of course I came to see the Burning Heaven sect's saintess. It is said that the saintess is a peerless beauty. Who doesn't want to see the saintess' face?" At this point, Zhuan's eyes revealed a hint of desire. Chapter 1547. The transaction. Zhuan didn't mind Xia Bingyu's disdainful words. He smiled and said, "If I don't have an invitation, can I participate in the great banquet of the world?" Xia Bingyu shook her head and said, "Aren't you thinking too much? The southern wilderness is so big. If anyone can participate in the great banquet of the world, this place won't be big enough for everyone to stand. If you don't have an invitation, you won't be able to participate in the great banquet of the world." At this point, Xia Bingyu's beautiful eyes stared mockingly at Zhu. Xia Bingyu was happy to see this calm and composed young man suffer a setback. Zhuan smiled and said, "Young Master Xia, don't you have an invitation? As young Master Xia's friend, it's only right for me to participate in the great banquet of the world with young Master Xia, right?" Xia Bingyu raised her chin and revealed a sly smile. She chuckled and said, "If you want to participate in the great banquet of the world with me, you'll have to be my subordinate. When the time comes, you'll have to listen to everything I say. You can't disobey me in the slightest." At this point, Xia Bingyu moved closer to Zhuan. She waved her folding fan and placed it in front of Zhuan's chest. Her beautiful eyes were full of slyness. The slyness on her exquisite face made people have the urge to pinch her cheeks. Zhuan unceremoniously slapped Xia Bingyu's fragrant buttocks. The latter jumped away like a frightened mouse and shouted angrily at Zhuan, "What are you doing? Do you want to die?" At this moment, if there was a hole in the ground, Xia Bingyu would definitely crawl into it. This Miefan was too despicable. He had slapped her in that area in front of so many of her maids. Even though Xia Bingyu was a straightforward man, she could not help but blush. This is a supreme grade Great Sage Golden Pill. It can raise your cultivation from the Void Profound Saint Realm to the Nirvana Profound Saint Realm. If you take me to the banquet, then this pill will belong to you. Zhuan suddenly took out a porcelain bottle and waved his sleeve, setting up an isolation barrier between the two of them. The surrounding cultivators whose cultivation was not as high as Zhuan's would not know what the two of them were doing, nor would they be able to see the Great Sage Golden Core that Zhuan had taken out. "What? A peerless immortal pill? Great Sage Gold Pill?" Xia Bingyu jumped, her beautiful eyes staring at the porcelain bottle in Zhuan's hand in disbelief. She had also heard of the Great Sage Golden Pill. It was one of the more common types of supreme-grade immortal pills. It was also one of the more widespread supreme-grade immortal pills. It was said that the Great Sage Golden Core could raise a profound sage-level sage by a small realm without any side effects. Their 9 Saints' Heavenly Gate had obtained such a Great Sage Golden Core in the past, and their sect master had taken it. The effect was indeed as rumored. It could raise a person's cultivation by a small realm. Such a peerless immortal pill was incomparably precious even in their 9 Saints' Heavenly Gate. However, Miefan had taken it out without hesitation, which really shocked Xia Bingyu. "Is this really a Great Sage Golden Core? You're not lying to me, are you?" Xia Bingyu was a little vigilant. The awkwardness just now had already disappeared, and her gaze was attracted by the Great Sage Golden Core in front of her. "Open it and see for yourself. You'll know once you verify it," Zhuan said indifferently. Hearing this, Xia Bingyu took the porcelain bottle and opened it a little nervously. A dense medicinal aura burst out, and the image of an immortal-like saint appeared above the porcelain bottle. The surging medicinal aura was like a hurricane, and it soared up as if it wanted to tear apart the surrounding seal. Xia Bingyu hurriedly closed the bottle, and her face was full of surprise. "It's really a Great Sage Golden Core. This Do you intend to make this deal with me? Zhuan asked with a faint smile. I do. Xia Bingyu nodded repeatedly. The corner of Zhuowen's mouth rose. With a hook of his finger, the porcelain bottle that was originally floating in front of Xia Bingyu suddenly fell into Zhuowen's hand. When you investigate the person I want you to investigate, and when you bring me to the great feast of the world, I will give you the reward. After saying that, Zhuan left with Lowe's, leaving Xia Bingyu stomping her feet in anger. Time passed day by day. For the next half a month, Zhuan basically stayed in his room. As time passed, Burning Heaven City became more and more lively. Finally, the liveliness reached its peak on the 15th day. This was because the Burning Heaven sect's sect master, Zhou Tianzong, had set up countless banquets in the vast square in front of the Burning Heaven Hall. It was called the Great Feast of the World. All the forces that received the Burning Heaven sect's invitation were invited to the Burning Heaven Square. Originally, as Zhou Tianzong's territory, the Burning Heaven Hall and the Burning Heaven Square had always been a forbidden area in the Burning Heaven City. Normally, the Burning Heaven sect would not allow other martial warriors to enter. But this time, Zhou Tianzong had set up the Great Feast of the World in the Burning Heaven Square. His intention was self-evident. Zhou Tianzong attached great importance to this marriage, and even used the Burning Heaven Square outside the Burning Heaven Hall as the location of this banquet. Zhuan, Xia Bingyu is waiting for us outside the guest station. Lowe's lightly knocked on the door and said in a low voice. Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged in the room, softly responded. Then, he opened the door and walked out of the inn with Lowe's. At the entrance of the inn, Xia Bingyu was still the same as before. Behind her were several beautiful maids. She was dressed like a scholar, and her body emitted a scholarly aura. Brother Miefun, today is the day of the great feast of the world. Follow my 9 saints' heavenly gate into the Burning Heaven Square. Also, regarding the person you want to inquire about, I have also helped you inquire about it in the sect. There are really old fellows in the sect who know about her. Xia Bingyu slowly walked in front of Zhuan, opened her folding fan, and gently fanned herself with the appearance of an elegant young master. At the same time, she handed a jade strip to Zhuowen and said, "The information you want to know is in here. Also, if you follow this young master, entering the Burning Heaven Square won't be a problem." Zhuan took the jade strip and immediately checked the contents of the jade strip. However, he frowned slightly and said, "Are you sure that the information recorded in this jade strip won't be wrong?" Xia Bingyu waved her hand and said, "Don't worry. That old fellow has the title of all-knowing scholar in our sect. Generally, the information that he can obtain will not be too far off." At this point, Xia Bingyu giggled and said, "I have already done what you asked me to do. What about the reward?" Zhuowen nodded slightly. With a wave of his right hand, he once again created an isolation barrier between the two of them. Then, he took out a profound saint artifact and 10 superior-grade immortal pills from his spirit ring. These 2 items were the reward for the information that he had previously promised. Xia Bingyu was like a little money grubber as she accepted the profound saint artifact and the 10 superior-grade immortal pills. At the same time, her eyes once again fell on Zhuan and said, "Where is my great saint gold core?" Zhuan shrugged and said, "That thing will not be left out." With that, Zhuan took out the great saint gold core and handed it to Xia Bingyu. The latter exclaimed in surprise as her eyes lit up. She held the great saint gold core in her hand and smiled foolishly. But Zhuan slapped the back of Xia Bingyu's head. The latter was so frightened that she almost dropped the great saint gold core in her hand. Fortunately, she was quick-witted and hurriedly grabbed the great saint gold core in her arms. She glared at Zhuowen and said, "What are you doing? Since you have received the reward, why aren't you taking me to the Burning Heaven Square? Do you want me to spank you again?" Zhuowen said indifferently. Hearing this, Xia Bingyu's pretty face immediately turned red. She said coquettishly, "You pervert! Release the restriction and I'll take you there." After Zhuowen released the restriction, Xia Bingyu angrily led the way in front. However, her cheeks were still red. The maidservants behind her stared at Xia Bingyu in surprise and said, "Young master, what's wrong with you? Did something happen in the restriction just now?" Xia Bingyu staggered and almost fell. She shouted at the maidservants, "What nonsense are you talking about? Quickly follow me to the Burning Heaven Square. Master, Marshal Uncle, and the others are waiting anxiously there." Seeing Xia Bingyu's guilty look, Yuan smiled knowingly and called Lowe's to follow behind them. At this moment, Burning Heaven City was bustling with people. It was many times more lively than when Jun and Lowe's had just entered Burning Heaven City. It was almost crowded. However, it was a good thing that most of the warriors in Burning Heaven City recognized Xia Bingyu's identity. Therefore, when Xia Bingyu walked over, most of the warriors consciously made way for her. "Junior sister, I've finally found you. Quickly come up." A clear and melodious voice rang out, and a rather large treasure boat appeared in the sky above the street. The surface of the treasure boat was colorful and filled with jewels. Wherever it passed, the sound of waves could be heard. It was as if the treasure boat was not floating in the air, but in the vast and boundless sea. On the treasure boat, there were many figures with powerful auras. At a glance, one could tell that the warriors on the treasure boat were extraordinary. The one who greeted Xia Bingyu was a young man with a sword on his back standing at the front of the treasure boat. The young man's clothes were whiter than snow. He was gentle and elegant and looked very good when he smiled. At this moment he was smiling at Xia Bingyu. "It's the treasure boat of the 9 Saints' Heavenly Gate." Many people in the surroundings recognized the treasure boat and consciously made way, not daring to get too close. Xia Bingyu naturally stepped into the treasure boat with the servant girl. Then she called out to Juan, "Brother Miefan, why aren't you coming up?" Juan nodded slightly and jumped onto the treasure boat without hesitation. "Brother Miefan, this treasure boat is filled with our 9 Saints' Heavenly Gate's senior brothers and sisters. There are also masters and uncles. You probably don't know them, but they all know you." Xia Bingyu said rather playfully, "I'm Han Yu, Bingyu's senior brother. Brother Miefan, I've heard of your name before. There aren't many people in the southern wilderness who can make Prince Raven and Jiang Liqing suffer at the same time. You're one of them." The young man in snow-white clothes slowly walked in front of Zhuowen and cupped his hands together in a rather friendly manner. Regarding the matter of Miefun, most people in Burning Sky City had heard of it. Han Yu had also heard of it, and there was a trace of closeness in his tone. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.